actually thought I was waiting for John, but John is not going to be here tonight, so we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm sorry, but I always want to say play ball, so that's a good show. Well, first of all, this is usually the part of the meeting that we allow people from the audience to have, if they got a comment or any kind of suggestions or anything else, to be able to speak at this time. We will not take any kind of action on anything that's brought up or said, but we'll would talk about it at a future date. So anybody got anything they want to bring up? All right, we'll move right on to one. Sorry, Michelle.
That's okay. Did they find out about those Lucas devices out in that storage unit, what kind of condition they were in? Or?
Well, they're still in the box, to my understanding, and I know I talked to Kyle on the way in tonight. The rep for Stryker still has not returned anybody's call. I called him personally last Monday and pretty much told him if I didn't hear from him, I was going to call somebody else. And I think he did reach out he sent Kyle a text the next morning, but said he'd be there by noon, and he never showed up. So it kind of slipped my thought process, but I asked Kyle walking in if he'd heard from him. He still hasn't. I'm going to give him a call in the morning, and if I don't hear from him, I'm going to start calling people until I get somebody to answer the phone. So I know that's a big ticketed item. Kyle, he'll address that when he has his presentation here in a few minutes, but he's got some more information about that. But my thing right now is that from my understanding, those were one of the items on the grant that was applied for and was not received. So at I would like to, and I'm sure, I don't know what Randy's thoughts are or John's, but I would, right now at this point, if we did not receive the grant for that type of expenditure, I'd like to probably see if they take them back, since they've never been taken out of the box, and we'll go from there. So
could we not just go ahead and just send them back if we're not getting an answer from them?
Well,
that'd be one way to get them to talk to us.
It might be that we have our attorney sending a letter saying we've been trying to reach you to and I know we've talked about this in other places, that during the CARES Act money, there was a lot of vendors that were kind of sending product out to people, without saying, hey, write us a check for, it's cash on delivery. But some of these guys, I think, just start shutting them out the door, saying, hey, we had all the sales we had, and waited for the money. The way the CARES Act money first came out was that we were told initially that everything you was going to buy, you better have the money on hand, because it had to go to the state and be approved, and then they would send you the money. So but in this case, the grant was last year, and they sent the product before we actually got the grant, and actually we were denied those grants. So anyway, right now we're trying to get them returned. So
Do you know how many there is in that unit?
I'm going to say 10 is what the magic number I always heard, but do you have any?
So there's a total of 16 Lucas devices that were.
How many?
16. That was to go to 8 of them went to ours, and the rest was supposed to go to
Schools and fire departments.
However, whenever Shane was let go, all that was brought in. It's in our classroom. It's not longer sitting outside the heat.
But it was, last week it was out in the heat.
It was not last week.
Well, that's what you told John on the cell phone when we were talking about it. It was out in a storage container in an uncontrolled climate.
No, so John asked me, he said that Shannon told him that no perishable parts was out in the shipping container, John asked me if that was true, and I said that was not true, but all of it had been brought in.
Well, I
Okay.
heard the conversation right here, and that wasn't the conversation that happened here on speakerphone. The answer was, where are they at? And you said out in the container out back, and he said, is it a controlled climate? And you said, no, sir. And he said, why are they out there? And you said, because Shannon told them to go. That was the conversation we all heard.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's my concern is those batteries are not supposed to be stored anywhere higher than 104 degrees.
I get that. But the answer to your question right now is that we're trying to get them returned so that, we can, finalize that deal with them, or, because, not, the way a grant should work is that you don't receive you can't even order the stuff until you have, the grant money. And then I think it has to go in an account, then the council has to appropriate it back out of a grant, situation to a fund so that they can spend it, so. And at that time is when they should have been ordered. Now, you could have talked to Lucas or Stryker and said, hey, here's how many we want, make sure we have them at this price and secure a price on them. But as far as them being delivered before the grant was approved or denied or whatever, it should never happen, so.
And we're talking, it was 600 and, how much?
Around 642 is what we've come up with ourselves, but that's without Stryker actually giving us a figure, because nobody will reach back out to us for it.
Well, again,
And I can address that one.
again, tomorrow,
2,000. I'm just sorry.
yeah, again, tomorrow I'm gonna reach out to, is it Chad?
It's Clay
Clay.
Thomas.
I'll reach out to Clay again tomorrow, and if I don't get a hold of him, then I'm gonna call somebody until I get a hold of somebody, so I'll let you know.
That was 642 what?
$1,000.
$642,000 for the Lucas devices.
Now, did you guys okay that 16 when he first purchased them, or you were?
He didn't purchase them.
Well,
What happened was, he came to the commissioners last year with 2 grants, and he had we approved the grant for him to write the grant, send it. Found out later that the grant wasn't approved, so, but also found out later that the product was delivered already, so that's where the beast is.
It's a lot of money, but hopefully, we
Oh,
haven't
it's-
actually spent it yet, but still, had we done it, that'd be a lot,
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. One Southern Indiana.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wendy Manchester, president of One Southern Indiana. I believe Matt Hall has been here before. Thank you for allowing us time on the agenda. Tammy, thanks for working with us. We are here to report the work that has been done on the behalf of the Scott County Economic Development Corporation over the last 12 months. You may remember that we entered into a contract with the Scott County Economic Development Corporation to provide economic development services for the 12 months that started August 1st and ended July 31st of this year. So we're here for 2 reasons tonight. We wanted to give you an overview of the work that was done under, it's not a contract, I'm sorry, a memorandum of understanding, but to give you an overview of the work that was done under that contract. And then to ask if there was an interest in renewing the contract. Technically it's expired, but we certainly don't want to leave Scott County in the lurch in any way, shape, or form. So we want to make sure that we're providing this. So a little bit about One Southern Indiana. We have been providing economic development services for Clark and Floyd counties since we formed 15 years ago. And we entered into this contract with Scott County for the first time, just for 1 year. And that was the intention. We're interested in renewing if you are. It's up to you. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Matt Hall. He knows more about economic development. He's forgotten more about economic development than I'll ever know. He is starting his 32nd year doing economic development work, and he's the master of it. So he'll go over the report that has the color on it, which is just sort of the summary of the year.
Sure. Wendy's too kind in her remarks. That's a nice way of saying I'm just old, but I've been around a long time. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of the work that we've done on behalf of Scott County. The table that you see at the top in gold is actually the 2 project announcements that we had under this contract. One was an expansion of Austin Tri-Hawk, which added 12 new positions and an annual payroll of $419,000, and new capital of $15.8 million, which is pretty significant. I think it's important to also point out, and I say this a lot, every time we have a company that expands, that's a victory in retention, because companies are more mobile today than any other time in our history, so we want to make sure that we take care of what we have. So with that project, we were able to retain about 480 jobs. Then, of course, we had an expansion with Multicolored Corporation, adding 73 jobs and $3.3 million annually in new payroll. Their average wage is $22.28 an hour, and there again, a retention of 207 positions. I wanted to talk about the payroll again, because that's an annual number. That's not just a one-time shot, which the taxable capital is. But that, if you think about everything that we spend our paycheck on, all of that money gets generated back into our local economy. So we're always happy not only to retain the jobs that are here, but we are thrilled anytime we can add to that annual payroll. The rest of this list, which is this green chart, is sort of a catalog, if you will, with dates. So it's sort of a diary of the specific activity that we've done. And I won't read this list to you, but just know that it includes everything from when we get inquiries from the state of Indiana or one of our utility partners or a site consultant that we may have met, and they're interested in property or buildings or greenfield sites. We have submitted properties in Scott County for consideration for those projects. We also maintain properties in the state's database and our own database that puts it out there. Anybody that's looking at the state of Indiana would be able to identify a property that was in Scott County. If there was interest, we of course would give a tour. We have also sort of acted as a traffic cop, if you will, for people who have called in and asked a variety of questions. You will see a lot of those on there. Everything from assessors accountants who've wanted to understand tax abatement a little bit better, or somebody who had a piece of property, they wanted to understand what the assessed value was, or does it have a tax abatement, that sort of thing. We've directed some of that in here, and that number for the EDC is actually directed to my line, so I've gotten a lot of calls about leasing space for receptions and things like that at the Mass Center. But you'll see, for example, Project Sticky, which is referenced throughout this, that'll give you an idea of, and that is multicolored, by the way, we give them code names. That is, you'll see throughout this, it sort of outlines the work that we did. So it's a lot of folks, if a company locates in a community or expands, there's sort of this belief, well, they just made a decision to do that, or they just threw a dart at a map and said, this is where we want to land. And hopefully this will give you an idea that that's really not how that happens. There's a lot of managing that process, and also bringing in the state if they want to offer incentives for that project, as well as we worked with the local municipalities on lining up those local incentives if they were applicable. And I want to give a big thanks to Tammy and the teams here locally who were very helpful, and because we didn't know anyone, and they just were phenomenal to work with in providing forms and processes and getting things moved along. So thank you all very much. Happy to answer any questions that you have about anything on the report.
So on the 2 projects that I see here with that you talked about, the Austin Tri-Hawk and Multicolor, what exactly did One Southern Indiana do for both those projects? I mean, what did you guys do specifically for them?
Well, for Multicolor, for example, we were contacted by the company, and I think they reached out to the state first and said, we are thinking about expanding. We don't know if we want to do that here or not. What kind of support can we get from the state? So the state will not put anything forth without there being local skin in the game or local support. So the state reached out to us because we are the state recognized LEDO, Local Economic Development Organization, for not just Clark and Floyd, but now for Scott. So they reached out to us and they said, we've got a company, they're looking to expand, they want to know what their options are. So we talked to them about what the process is for getting a tax abatement on their $7.7 million, what qualifies for that. we helped them, we provided forms for them, we convened, I don't know how many meetings and discussions. We sort of beat up on the state a little bit, if you will, and said, can we do a little bit more? This is a company that's going to retain over 200 positions. What can you all do? Help the company understand things like EDGE tax credits with the state, how those work. You know, Indiana is a pay-as-you-go state, so there's really not an exchange of cash. So making them understand that it's actually a tax credit based on your withholdings for your Indiana workers. So therefore it's tied, you know, they wouldn't get the incentive unless the jobs were actually created. So that was part of that process, and similar to Austin Tri-Hawk. And I'm trying to remember if I believe we were contacted, they had hired a consultant to actually evaluate different states and different properties for, do they want to add to their capacity here, or do they want to do that somewhere else? So we sort of approached it as a competitive, which it was, a competitive project, and said, this is why you should do this project here in Scott County instead of wherever else they were looking. So I could spend all night talking about
Well, I mean,
process.
looking at these two projects here, I mean, the fee that we pay you, if that increased, 85 jobs and a added annual salaries or payroll of somewhere in the 3.7 or 3.8 million dollars. I mean, that's a lot of revenue coming to the county. So, and you're right, companies these days, you would never think somebody could just, you know, pull up and take off, but they do. So
We've seen it happen, frankly, in our region, and we feel the loss.
yeah, you got any questions, Randy? What they do or what the? And I will say this, I don't know.
When you
I
go
don't
get
know
more
that,
people in
I don't think you were here, last time, Randy, when this happened, but, what it is am I not correct, it's a $20,000 a year that
That's the big, yeah.
okay. So it's $20,000 a year for, you know, to employ them to, you know, I guess, it's kind of an
It's
economic
appropriated
development,
through
yeah.
redevelopment
Yeah, it's-
money, so it's carried through that budget, so it's actually our tax increment financing dollars going back to improve economic development in the county. So it's not out of general fund or any of the county
So
main
for
funds.
$20,000, you brought in 2 places. If we pay you $40,000, you'll bring in 2 more.
I promise you, I will work really hard to get every single one of them on a sorted.
I think it's well worth the investment. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
so I'd entertain a motion to extend it.
Can we without John?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
there's 2 of us, there's a quorum, so. Randy makes a motion, I'll second that, and I'm sure, I think the last time John was in favor of it as well, so I can't vote for him, but
I know. I don't anticipate.
no, I don't think there'd be a problem there, so. If there was, I would've probably held off. I think John is a supporter of this as well, so. Well, the vote was 2-0, John not being here, so I'd say that passes, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Clarification, this time, we're in consulting with Tammy, we offered this to the Scott County Economic Development Commission instead of the corporation. Since the corporation is not active, we didn't feel it was appropriate for us to be working for a group that they weren't overseeing what we did, so we chose you
Yeah.
to come
Well, I
report
appreciate
too,
that.
if that's okay.
So do I need to sign this one?
If you don't mind, or sign, yes, a couple of them, and that way they can take one back.
I'll sign them.
Okay, very good.
Well, I'm so sorry, I do have one point of clarification.
It's
Our board of
actually
directors
May.
will need to approve this as well, and that meeting is August 26th, so I will sign it once my board approves it. They know I'm here tonight, but if they won't, they'll take the action on the retroactively.
Sign one for me, and I'll put it in the notes, and then she can take one signed to her. How's that?
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
To her board.
We appreciate working with you. We've enjoyed the
Well, you guys have
relationship.
always, I'll
It
bet.
just takes 1 second.
Awesome.
You need a copy of that, you want?
No,
Actually,
I've got no problem.
There's
When our
2
board takes
copies.
action- When our board takes
Do you want
action,
one of these?
Please, if you'll sit, yeah, well, yeah.
when our board takes action on August 26th, I will sign it and then make sure that Tammy has
To
two
attest
copies.
to it.
Okay. Do you ever, I know Wendy does a Zoom meeting that I've been on before. They're, I'll say they're very entertaining, so.
A sing and dance, no.
No, she doesn't.
You will likely see us up here again in the next month or so, or either us or maybe a representative from River Hills Economic Development Commission. We are staffing the Our Southern Indiana Regional Development Authority in the application for the READY program, the state regional economic and acceleration development initiative. If I said that right, it's READI. Our region is applying for $50 million. The application was going to be due August 31st. They just this week extended that deadline to September 30th, so we're trying to regroup. We'll meet on Friday and figure out what our schedule is, but you will likely see us come up and give you an overview of that as well.
I think we put in a plan for that, so.
Yeah.
And youth works complex.
Yeah. Okay.
We look forward to coming back.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, thank you. Good seeing you again. 911 EMA update. And I see here it says address change. You moving someplace? Huh?
Maybe you.
That's probably always a given.
It's just a picture. You can look at a picture.
Is that a quiz?
Well, we ran into a little issue. Me and Tammy talked. Entrado does a lot of the voice over internet stuff for phones. Well, they sent me a couple addresses, and this one, 1169 or 64, Hidden Meadows Court. What they did was, Tammy thought it was 2004, that subdivision they went through, which is a good thing, and assigned the addresses before any of the places were built, which is good if you have construction workers out there.
Hidden Meadows is off of Cope Lane, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was formerly Dogwood, so it was revamped and renamed back in the early 2000s. And so all of this readdressing happened because they started naming the streets differently out there in a subdivision that had never been developed. So these were just blank formatted,
Blank
platted
parcels
lines.
that were assigned addresses.
Are you saying the subdivision was called Dogwood?
The old one was, and then they redid it kind of like they did, to Wolf Run, Moonglow Estates, part of it changed to Wolf Run. They redid an old subdivision called Dogwood, because I was in the map room when all this happened, and so then they developed Hidden and Rolling Meadows, and, yeah, so Jeff.
Recently, I drove out through there the other day, and I think all the plots are now got houses on them. Well, this one address that I circled on here, was given a Hidden Meadows address. Well, the driveway faces Rolling Meadows. And it's gonna throw the master address street guide all out of whack if we don't change it.
What's the homeowner saying?
Well, Larry tried to call him 3 or 4 times, couldn't get a hold of anybody, so I've got a letter ready to send them saying that we're gonna have to change your address.
Okay, the other thing of this is, does the post office issue the addresses to people?
No, the way it's set up in the county, years ago, the commissioners assigned that task, even though different counties do things differently. It can be 911, but it would mean that they would be taking people basically walking in off the street and saying, I've been to Plan Commission, giving my address at 911. So it's always been kind of handled in this county via the commissioners, a decision they made many, many years ago to handle the map room and the property. When we basically, or the property nursery, so to speak, because we're splitting properties. We're always creating new taxation lines and assessments. So whenever we assign the address, they're now going through the plan commissions because that's part of the steps. And then they're saying, okay, they've gone through the right steps to be bona fide enough at this point to get an address. So, and we like for them to be where the driveway intersects the street or the highway or the county road or whatever it is. That's where we typically measure, because technically every 5 feet in the county you can have an address issued. a number generated. But, so, unfortunately, on a corner lot that was issued before it was developed, you had no idea as to which way that driveway was gonna go. So back years ago, they just started measuring, going by streets, assigning numbers. So as the developments occurred, somebody already had a pre-addressed, so they walked in and said, oh, this is your address. A lot of the lots in town, they're easier to address than out in the county because there's not as much measuring. You just have to kind of guess the numbers in between and make sure it's odd or even, north, south, whatever. And so, you know, it's a little bit of a process, but that's typically how that goes.
What would happen if we get pushback from the property owner saying they don't want to change?
I mean, would this need to go back to the planning commission?
Well, what happens is technically you can have any mailing address you want to get your mail at. Because you can have a post office box.
Yeah.
Mailing addresses and 911 addresses are totally two different
Okay.
things. So technically, we have people who years ago had a 40-acre farm, built a house, you know, 100 feet down the road or 200 feet down the road, and took their mailbox with them and their post office box number or whatever, and their mailing address, and moved it down there and messed up our addressing system because now their 911 address is technically not their mailing address. So there's where the problem is. They could get their mail at any place they deem their mailing address, but their 911, they need to, and we tell these people, you really need to change your address so you come up on the 911 system as the same as your house number, because when you get panicked, you're not gonna remember what my 911 address is versus my mailing address.
Well,
They won't do it.
The other part of this, I could see that if this house turns off of one street onto another street and the garage access is off of Hidden Meadows, and your mailbox could be on the front of the house.
Yeah.
And I mean, you see that all the time.
I went out and checked it, and the driveway and the garage are facing Rolling Meadows.
South.
Well, it's facing north, actually. If you look at the,
Okay, I'm looking at
In
it
the,
backwards.
in the past, we've advised people that, you know, you do need, and maybe you need to put one of those signs out where you've got the green 911 address, because if you're out in the country, you know,
Well,
you know,
being
it's
someone
two
that
different addresses.
gets called out to fires and stuff, and you're sitting there trying to figure out where you're going.
where you're going, it's
Uh,
not a good thing.
I mean,
because if
So
we
this-
tell you it's on
this
Hidden
request
Meadows,
is just a request for the 911 address change.
yeah.
The homeowner would have to then go back to request
If
the
they
change,
choose to.
If they choose to.
as long as it doesn't affect them and they don't raise 9 times a
I
cane.
mean, they would have to change all their,
Well, the only way they would ever know that it's any different is if, because the only thing's gonna happen is if they call 911, it's gonna pop up showing where they're at. It's gonna be different from their mailing address. You know, and sometimes people don't even have a mailbox out there, they have a PO box, so. As long as there's not anybody that's gonna, you know, flip out, where we're telling them, I guess this is the, where I guess I'm a
How
little
have you
confused.
reached out to the homeowner?
If you're going to tell somebody, hey, you need to go change your address because this is a conflict, that's different. You're not telling them to do that. You're changing it in your CAD or in your system over there so that police, fire, and ambulance knows, hey, here's this.
there's a form that I have that says, this is your assigned address, and we have to change it to this address.
That's fine. But we're not asking them to change their mailing address. They want to keep their social security cards, their driver's license, and everything else. It's not gonna affect anybody. Post office is still gonna stick their mail in the mailbox.
Like I told Tammy, I just wanted to ask you, because looking into the ordinance, it gives the 911 director the authority to do that and change road names and street names if necessary.
Yeah.
But that can be a topic, like the email Marty sent a couple weeks ago. That can be a topic for another meeting.
I just, like I said, I don't see a big deal here outside of, we're not asking them to change their physical address. I mean, I know there's things in the county like what you talked about where, and actually it's my son's address. It's actually his address, but the post office and everybody else says it's the neighbor's address across the street. Well, it's not. I mean, because odd and even goes one way or the other.
Like I said, we have a thing called the MSAG, the Master Street Address Guide. And it has to all, because I get queries on that all the time about is this a valid address? What's the high and low end? Well, this would throw that all out of whack.
Okay.
So I just wanted to bring it for you guys and get your blessing before
Just because
I.
I'm new and don't, so there's an ordinance that's already been adopted that delegates authority to you to do this.
Back in 90, I think it was 93 or 94.
Can't think, I don't know for sure, I would have to go back through and see.
I've got it on my,
And the form that you have was
it's
from,
a form that says county form, something on the bottom of it.
okay,
I mean, I can send it to you if you,
I'm just curious, the enabling statute, or enabling.
it may be something similar to what Marty and them.
I think the
might have,
911
but-
addressing system came in the mid-90s, maybe, was that right? Before they actually named the street,
When
the
it went-
roads and,
Yeah, when it went enhanced
The
911, they
911
would have had to
center,
have done that, so.
and then we do have
I'm
lots of
pretty sure it's
locations
ordinance
that are.
93 something.
And the
After,
problem is with loans right now, because when they go abstracting and somebody gets mail at this, they better make sure their deed says what the county says their real address is for their physical location, because their mailing address could vary by a few digits or, you know, whatever. So they double check everything now as far as the property. So it's real important that we try to get consistency, and we like the 911 addresses to match their mailing addresses, to match their property location and the assessor's records. And we like for all that to look nice and neat, but there's a few abnormalities out there.
I don't have a problem getting in the car tomorrow and going and knocking on the door and trying to,
I think you need to just send a certified letter.
Yeah, I would send a certified letter,
I mean, we can do it the nice way. or
ask for
We
it.
can do it through the mail, I don't
Well,
care.
but I think the explanation, I think, to them is gonna simplify the whole thing. If you send them and you might follow up with a phone call or tell them, please reach out to me. Because I think if you explain to them, your mailing address stays the same. In our computer system, when you call 911, that is where the correct address has to be.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna affect any other thing in your life besides they're gonna find your address easier.
Yeah.
So,
'Cause if you go looking for this address and it's Hidden Meadows and it is popping up something different, then
and
that's the only thing. It'll just change their 911 address and it'll change it in the mapping system
yeah,
so that we can know exactly where they are.
I think we're good.
All right. One of your big topics we talked about the other day, next Thursday, 10 a.m. if you want to come in. Michael Dyer from RCS is,
Oh, Michael,
he's bringing those quotes down.
10 a.m.?
Yep.
I haven't talked to him for a couple of years.
Yep. He'll be in my office next Thursday at 10 if you guys
That's the radio guy.
want to see the quotes for the system that he's suggesting.
And this is the system you're talking about is, possibly repeaters and towers and.
Not repeaters. He's, the new technology is
Is
called,
the
it's a
wave.
simulcast. And you can put, they just installed, the same system up in Brown County for the sheriff and the school system up there. You can have 6, 8, 10, whatever sites. And it will take your transmission, send it to the hub, vote, and send it to the best location with the strongest signal. And he's done the studies, and what he told me yesterday on the phone was, I've got it to where 98% of the time you'll get out and be able to reach dispatch on a portable anywhere in the county.
Well, that's where I want to be. And Brown County would be a great example of that if it works there, because they're as hilly as we are, so.
He also offered that if you guys want to take a field trip, he'll put us in a car and take us to Brown County and drive around and show how it works.
So you key, that signal goes to the base.
It goes to like a base station.
And then
And
it
then
gets
it-
redirected to,
It redirects it to the best location with the highest signal rate.
Guess my question would be with that, what if you're in an area that you're having trouble, because right now it's line of sight. If you're in a hole and you're keying up a radio and it doesn't connect to the base, are we still in the same
The way he talked to us would be, if, no matter where he was at in this county, 98% of the time, on a portable, you'd be able to get out.
That's good. Well, that's the kind of system that I'm looking for,
That's
because
That's
we,
the 5-watt system, a portable. You shouldn't have any issues in a car or a truck or.
and you know, I've said this before, you know, and I know Washington County's a little flatter than we are, but I hear Washington County, and not just Washington, I hear fire departments within Washington County on handheld radios, and I'm hearing them in my house in Lexington. And it's just amazing that I can't sometimes key a radio in Scottsburg and talk to anybody. So, and I know that's sometimes a fluke, but if you're on the backside of Hardy Lake or you're on the other side of Lexington, it's hard to get out.
Like I said, the big difference in Washington County and us is 500-foot tower on top of the biggest hill over there. So that's why they're so good.
Yep, I get it.
What type of delay are we talking?
The way he talked is very little. It sends it in, does a quick vote, sends it right back out.
Well, 800s have it.
Yeah.
There's a delay in the 800s. 'Cause
Right.
there's a lot of times, and you'll key a radio and you'll start talking and it hadn't even clicked you yet. So sometimes you had to hold the radio and hear a tone, and then you could talk.
So I
So
told him to price the 2-tower system too, and he said, you really want me to do that, because that's gonna be,
obviously,
that's gonna be really high, and this is gonna save you a lot of money, so. But if you're interested, Thursday at 10 o'clock, he
I'll
can
try to get
explain it
there.
a lot better
now
than
you're talking next week?
next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday. I told him I had to have the quotes before your next meeting, and he's coming in next week.
Over there at your place?
Yeah, my office.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
and I know you have a lot more questions, and he can probably answer them better than I could.
Oh, when he sold us the system before, he and I were best friends. I probably talked to him 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He can
answered.
explain it a lot better than I can, so,
All right, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I have a question, fire department question, because I hear these radios, like Lisa, she probably knows all the issues. Is there, in upgrading, is there any opportunity for the fire departments to get a limited number, like for office for 800 megahertz? Because I'm telling you, it's bad. Your improvements may help, but is there any funds that could give that level of radio to the officers?
Well, I just sent your husband a quote yesterday he asked me about that, and for 4 800 radios. The Kenwood is about $6,200, I think, for 4 radios.
Is there any way that can come from any of these funds with the upgrading?
We'd have to look at that. I'm gonna tell you, I've got an 800. I'm not a big fan of it myself. I mean, I've heard other people talk about it over the years, and there's times when 800s, you might as well throw them in the river, because you're not getting out on them, especially on an overcast day or a day that's raining.
You're never gonna be able to afford 800 towers in this county.
Nope.
Just to put the equipment on an existing tower, like a cell phone tower, you're looking at $500,000.
I just wanted to throw that out there. 'Cause that's
Yeah, I get it.
me.
And actually, I'll say this, I mean, I pushed for everybody to be on the same system, and obviously that's not true, that didn't happen, but 911, if anything, taught us that people need to communicate together, and if you can't communicate, you can't work efficiently. And I think there's times when we're still in that boat here, so, and we're a lot smaller than New York, so.
I'll tell you another problem is the 800 radios that we had, and we've had originally Motorola's. You got about another 3 years, and they're obsolete now. You can't send them in because they no longer make the parts. They don't service them. In another 3 years, they're useless.
Well, I don't have them, I don't think mine's a Kenwood.
Yeah, you probably got Ken, I've got Kenwood too, the Motorola 800 radios that everybody else has. Their fire departments and EMS was issued originally. They're another 3 years, they're really obsolete, you can't get them repaired now.
The other radios that they use, this is a question, I'm trying to read so I can understand. Do they follow more like cell phone coverage?
The 800 operates a lot like a cell phone. It sends a signal to the tower. And basically, if it's really congested, it's like a cell phone. That's why you get that busy signal on the 800 radio. It operates a lot like a cell phone signal.
That's why I can't use mine. I can't figure it out. It's not smart
That's why
enough.
you get a busy signal, because that tower that you're trying to hit is busy.
I just keep turning buttons till I hear somebody talk and I just start talking back.
I can't get it. I tried to explain that to several people, but the state police, it works great for them because
That's all they do.
they own the system.
Yeah.
And they can go from the river down here to Michigan, and they can hit any tower along the way. Here, we only hit 2 or 3 towers. When you get out of that range, you don't have radio.
Do we still supply some of the state police officers around here with our low band?
I think they, for a while, they had a couple of lawyers that they had. Well, I think the state police just buys them now. I don't have radios to hand out.
I know before they can't communicate with local police, so I was just, once again, I mean,
My ultimate goal is to put all law enforcement on one frequency.
Well-
Make it better for them and my people, because
well, that's where I disagree. Cause me running to a fire run and there's a police officer on scene and I'm hearing, right now I can hear most of what, unless it's the sheriff's department because they're on 800. I can hear him tell what's going on before dispatch turns around and tells me, or may not tell me, what he just told me, or what I just heard. So, in turn, going to a wreck or going to, just like the other night at that fire, where there were 2 people hanging out the window trying to keep from getting burned up, I heard the police saying, you know, what they were talking about before we ever got there. So, so in turn, some people may not think that's useful information, but as a fireman, and I know that wreck is somebody's hanging upside down, or they're underwater, or they're this or that, and that doesn't get relayed to, in a timely manner to the people that are responding. That changes the whole setup of how you're going to prepare yourself when you get there to do what you need to do, instead of hoping that information gets relayed. So that's why I don't like where the sheriff's department can go out there and yip yap, and I'm sitting there trying to talk to one of the deputies the other day, and once he leaves his car, he can't hear me. So his 2-way, I mean, he might as well throw it in the river too, because all he can do is talk to somebody else. But that's aggravating as a fireman. So that's and the reasoning never is explained good enough for the benefit of that. So so I've argued with 2 sheriffs ago and didn't agree with him when he pulled it, and I don't agree with the 800s where ambulance and fire can't hear what the heck is going on. So
the big push was interoperability. And
Do what?
The big push was being able to communicate everybody on one system. Well, now you got it separated.
oh, I know. We didn't go, instead of marrying it better, we went a totally different way. So I don't agree with it, didn't agree with it, still don't agree with it, and hopefully nobody gets hurt one of these days because they can't communicate with somebody. And there for the longest time, especially because I don't live in the city limits, I live outside in the county. I hear a lot of county traffic, and there was a situation where there was a deputy out there all by himself, and I actually took my gun, went down to the house that he was at, so, but I heard him on another radio, so, but, you know, those things shouldn't happen, and that's why I pushed, and I didn't, you know, that everybody be on the same radio. There's channels that everybody can go out and be on a tactical channel and nobody hear them, and I know that for a fact. It's because Scottsbury Fire has a channel that only if you have that radio and have the same frequency I have, that you can hear it.
Every agency does,
I know. I know, and that's what I'm saying. There was, I mean, I didn't get the gist of it, but I'll stop. So, health department.
Troublemaker.
How are you guys?
Oh, I'm better now.
Good. All right, I'll do this first. So, you guys approved earlier this year a COVID vaccine overtime pay, and it was up at the end of July. And I wasn't gonna renew it, but then after this week.
Just that grant you got?
Yes. After this week, Monday night and Tuesday night, me and some of the others worked pretty late, putting in 178 annual COVID tests. So, we're about halfway through the grant money right now, so it's just over 40,000. I've spent about 22,000 in overtime. So I was just gonna extend that through October 31st
And
of
you're
this year.
extending the time period, but the money's still there.
Right.
Same grant.
The money's actually in, in the account.
I get that.
Yeah, so,
But the money's not ran out.
right, I've
You
spent
just had a date
22.
that you were gonna use it to.
Yeah, so our, Erwin, Shealy, whatever their names are, said that we needed to do this policy kind of like in time increments. Not just like approve it for
A year.
forever, yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
just every so often reevaluate and then renew
Let's
the
do
policy.
this, since we have extended our
COVID.
pay
Yeah.
to the end of the year, why don't we extend your thing to the end of the year as well? And it makes it just a round number.
Okay, I'll retype this and then send it to Tammy. Does she have your stamp, like to stamp it if it's?
He comes in. and
I
signs.
come in. and
Okay,
sign.
I'll give it to her for you to sign then before next Tuesday at the council meeting.
That's fine.
If you so move.
If you so move,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
sorry.
I guess that's a
Better get
suggestion. I
moving.
guess we'll need a motion. Anyway, Randy makes a motion to extend the overtime, time period, I guess, for, COVID overtime for the health department to the end of the year. They still have, half the money or a little less than half the money to, support that. So Randy makes a motion, and I'll make that, I guess, unanimous tonight.
Yeah. Okay, I'll reprint this and then give it to Tammy for you to sign.
Okay.
And then obviously everything with COVID going on, I would not be surprised if next week we go up to red. So with the new Senate Bill 5, a lot of decisions really need to come as like a joint decision from us and you guys. So if you guys ever want to get together and talk about what kind of things you want to do for red, especially with school starting, I know that kind of, puts another aspect to everything.
So what's the, what's the big, I guess, driver of the numbers right now? Was there
Well,
an event? Was there?
So as you guys know,
I
we
know
got that
what
email from
happened
the
here.
state.
I know what happened in here, but
Yeah, and then when everybody has the same address across the street, that obviously increases our numbers in a congregated setting. But as far as anything outside
but
of
that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Did that come into? I mean, that wasn't something that was already there.
yeah, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Okay.
But yes, it was brought into.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically once it's in that setting, it's hard not to.
I get it.
But yeah, I can tell you offline about.
Is this the, Delta or whatever?
So we will get sequencing on every single test we send off. We'll get that back hopefully by Monday. It takes about 5 days to get that back, they said. But the way it's going, I don't see how it couldn't be, just how it's so easily spread in different areas, and we can't link people to people, and it just seems like that would be the case, that it would be Delta.
So
We'll
it's,
know for sure.
so it's not something that is saying, hey, these people had a family reunion and everybody there tested positive.
That has not, in that situation, no. In the situation, other places, I think that has happened.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, because
No,
I
it's
don't
fine.
know this, but is a Delta, more potent, deadly?
So, I haven't heard or read much about it being more deadly, but it's definitely more contagious. So they said it's more, or just as contagious as chickenpox. So, back in the day, whenever chickenpox, there wasn't a vaccine and you would quarantine and get all the kids sick, like, that's probably like what we're gonna have to be dealing with at the schools, if Delta gets in there.
So since I've had chickenpox, I'm not gonna get.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
So,
Well,
but if you're vaccinated, you know, your likelihood of having severe, like being hospitalized with COVID is a lot more decreased. And a lot of the hospitalizations, like over 90, I think it's like over 98% of the hospitalizations right now are people who are unvaccinated.
So if you're vaccinated, it still helps with the Delta.
Absolutely.
It just, you can still catch the Delta.
Right.
Symptoms are gonna be different.
Right, so like if I'm vaccinated,
What do you mean if?
or I am, but like for me, like, okay, so like I went to a big event this past weekend where I'm sure COVID was there, so I'm wearing my mask because, like, you know what I mean, like that, I'm taking my precaution, doing my part, right? But I'm vaccinated, so I need to be on the lookout for symptoms that are less severe because I already have COVID antibodies from my vaccine. So if I get exposed to COVID, I may just have, like everybody says, just sinuses and allergy issues. Whereas people who are not vaccinated, as you guys know, like they get put on ventilators, and it's sometimes really hard to get them off ventilators, and that's when it gets really, really scary. So yeah, if you're vaccinated, the likelihood of it being severe is lower, but you can still get COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
My next question, you know, they had the little rapid test that.
Yes.
Out at CPS.
Yes, those are
So
exact same
will
rapid
that-
tests that we have.
And will it pick up the Delta?
So it will pick up COVID. You won't know if you have Delta unless it goes to a lab, because the lab has to do the sequencing
But
on
it will
it.
show up as COVID?
Yes.
If you had Delta?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, and you can't tell if you have Delta or Alpha or original COVID based off your symptoms. Like, you only know that if that sample gets sent to the lab and they run the sequencing on it.
It's either positive or negative.
Right, and the
Like
issue
fun.
with the home test, we've actually had a lot of people report them, which I'm kind of surprised about. But the issue that we ran into today with somebody was that they did a home test on themselves, but they're kind of finicky about like medical stuff, so they didn't get a good swab on themselves. And so then when they actually went to somebody else who swabbed them, their rapid test came back positive instantly, even though they've been sick for a week. So that's kind of the issue with home tests is the test is only as good as the swab is, the sample that you give it, so.
Well, I know, because of Senate Bill 5,
Yes,
that changes some parameters, but
yes,
I know the board the other day, when we had a joint session with the council, we did approve, going back to, temperature checks at the door, because some of that could have maybe eliminated or alleviated a problem that we had here in the courthouse. That, but also we sent out a letter to all the department heads and everybody else saying that if you're sick, you need to take yourself home, you're still gonna get paid for 2 weeks. The other part of that is that if a department head has a person that is refusing to go home, then that escalates to a second, another level of, hey, just because you don't wanna go home, there's no option here.
yeah,
And you may be sick with the regular flu or whatever.
Exactly.
But at this point in time, we need to make sure that we're protecting our people as much as possible, especially if you have 1 or 2 markers for COVID, then you need to you know, exit the building or stay home
Yeah,
or go get a test.
yeah,
You know, if you think it's regular flu or something else, go get tested. I mean,
Right.
and if it comes back negative, come on back to work, you
Right.
know.
yeah, and we
But-
try to be accommodating if the department calls us and, you know, something's going on and they just wanna drive in and get tested, we do
That comes to a couple of questions. First of all, are you still testing?
So the health department itself is not really testing the public. That is through the hospital.
So they're still doing it?
So basically what the old health department was doing is just moved inside to the hospital. They have you
Okay.
park outside. They have like 5 parking spots there on the north side of the building where they come out to your car and swab you. But do we do testing as far as do we have tests on site? Will we do it for clerk's
factories or
office,
something like that?
auditor's office, things like that? Absolutely.
So, for the residents of Scott County,
Mhm.
if anybody wanted to go in the next hour and get a testing, or tomorrow and get a test, is there multiple sites that they can go to?
You can go to CVS and get a rapid, and Walmart and do your own.
So there is a purchase test out there that you can
Yes,
go
and it's
get
the
tested?
exact same test that we do, the Binex, for the rapids. But as far as like getting tested for the lab, you either have to go to the free site through the hospital, your doctor can order
Okay.
a test through the hospital, that'll probably cost you, but, yeah, there's no armory now. And, I mean, I'm sure a lot of doctor's offices have their own, but
Yeah, I know
as
that.
far as just like making an appointment and getting in 15 minutes, really just the hospital.
Okay, all right, the next question, are we still doing the shots?
Oh, yeah. Yes, so Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays we do shots. Mondays we do 3 to 5, Thursdays we do 1 to 3, and then Fridays we do them all day.
Okay, you're still getting still getting a lot of people.
Yes, as more
Want to do
cases
them?
go up, more people want to get vaccinated, so that's good.
The hospital charging for the test.
If they go through the community testing site through the state and the test that we provide, no. So.
So if they go to the hospital and they go to like
The-
supposedly the free clinic or whatever, it's free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't even put in any billing or like stuff, you don't put your
And
insurance
that's
information or none of that.
15-minute test?
That's the Binex, which you could also get at CVS or Walmart, but I think, I
I'm
know
gonna
they're
ask-
$20 at Walmart, I
Yeah,
don't know what
$20
CVS.
That's what I was gonna
CVS.
ask, I mean, what is the cost of that, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so we always encourage people just to not spend $20, but some people just don't wanna.
Well, a lot of people don't like to go in the hospital.
Right.
And a
Well, you
lot-
don't, yeah, and that's the thing, is like, you don't have to go into the hospital, they will come out to your car, but,
Okay, so okay.
yeah, so you don't have to walk in the hospital at all, cause they don't want you in there if you're sick.
No, yeah, I get that. Okay, well, you got any other questions?
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
While you're here, I mean, not, but just to keep you in the loop and stuff. Is there any way we can go ahead and decide on the, health department, Phil Stuckey and, life,
You mean that building out there?
The old health department,
Yeah.
Thrive? Is that the word you're looking for?
I'm gonna say, let's wait till John gets back, see if he's got any input. But, I mean, I'm still good with that, I mean,
Yeah, I still need to clean out my testing supplies, so just give me like, I'm
Gosh.
just been, I
You're
know.
using it for a storage unit or what?
Well, not like really, it's like half of a room, but yeah.
I'd rather wait, see if John's gonna be here, cause that's a decision I think all three of us need to make.
I just want to try to get the ball rolling on that.
Oh, I know that, I think,
I'm over there about once a week,
I'd rather
so.
it be utilized than sitting empty. So
Me too.
the last time it cost us $20,000 just to bring it back to where somebody could walk in it.
Yeah.
Marcel, you got a question?
I just had a question, like, the health department, they're not doing the testing on the COVID, is that what she said?
Yes.
So, right,
Go
so we
ahead.
don't really offer that to the public, we wanna send them over to the testing site, which is at the hospital.
So what will it take to maybe open that back up, like for the armory, for you guys to start testing?
So the
Maybe with
armory,
Red or what?
so the armory is it was a
State.
it was a state contract through a company called Optum. What happens at the hospital is the state gives us money for testing, they give us all the supplies, all the PPE. We partnered with the hospital to basically provide the staffing for that, they use their lab staff, and that's how they get the free testing. So it's technically through us, but we're not staffing it.
Now, is the community aware of that? Is there anything put in the paper, especially since now that we're getting more at risk? Is there something out there where they know?
It's on social media, I don't know if anything's been recently ran in the paper, but we could definitely arrange that. And
Could
then,
we put a sign, or maybe put a sign in the hospital yard out there or something that says,
so
you know,
they have, Stephen has, spent money and put some COVID testing things, and then we have a sign at the old health department that says like COVID testing parking this way.
So I would think if they knew, they could maybe just drive up in their vehicle, you know. Some people's leery about even going to the hospital if they didn't have it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanna know if that's, you know, especially for the elderly, if they know that that's available to them.
Right, yeah, I mean,
but you're saying.
I can always reiterate.
You're saying right now is that they call the number, say, I want a COVID test, they're sitting in the parking lot, maybe in a designated area, somebody's gonna walk out to them, swab them,
yes.
and they're gonna sit there 15 minutes, they're gonna come back out and say yay or nay, and they're gonna drive off.
Can we use our new sign out in the parking lot?
Actually, that'd be good, Jeff's got a sign that he can.
Okay, I'll ask, I mean, it's hospital grounds, so I'll have to get it approved through them, but.
Do what, Jay?
She's gotta get approval through the hospital to be able to put that sign on their property.
I got those 2 old trailers I can pull out there, whatever.
Well,
So will you check with Steve?
Yes, I will check with Steve.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You asked a question that, about your test will pick up the COVID, the variant, but there is a percentage of false negative. So if you get a negative, it does not mean you don't have COVID.
Right,
And if you're really, really, I'm just saying this because people might be listening.
yes,
Because
thank you.
If you're very sick and you think you have COVID, you need to go get what's called PCR. It takes a day or two, but if you have COVID, there's medicines that can help you not get so ill, and we've seen really good results for our people in the community.
Well, I think you're exactly right, because unless they've got that testing better, it was 75% false readings, I mean, or, no, the opposite. It worked 75% of the time, 25% of the time, it was a potluck, whether you did or not.
And the hospital staff is really good about, hey, your rapid came back negative, let's do this PCR test, we get it back in 24 hours. And most people take them up on that, not everybody. But yeah, that's a really good point. And like you said, that there's an infusion that you can get at the hospital if you are positive, that really, really, really helps people.
Well, if I was a person out here that thought they had COVID, they had 2 or 3 markers, and I got a negative test, I'd probably definitely be, because your mind's already telling you you probably have it. So
Right.
you probably want to know for sure, so I'd go the extent of the other test.
Right, yeah.
Jeff,
Most people
let
do.
Michelle check with Steven and see if he will allow that.
Is that just like a road sign? Like a,
You saw it at the fair, didn't
You
you?
see them at the fair, at the entrance.
yeah, I think so.
It's on a two-wheel
Okay,
trailer and.
With the
Solar
or-
ballards, and
okay,
they're super light, we can push them into the yard,
okay,
set up the message, say whatever.
whatever, okay. I'll ask
set it
Steven.
on schedule.
Yeah, Steve's pretty easy to work with.
Yes, he is. So yeah, back to the mandate stuff, if you guys want to, I don't know how you feel about it, if you want to have a conversation about like if we go to red or if
Can you
this happens or,
Can you send us an email form or whatever, what, the red is, what the requirements of,
yes,
or restrictions or whatever?
yes. There's really not any restrictions, that's
It's like
the
it's
thing.
250 people or
None of that's there anymore.
not anymore?
No.
So why do they still color coded it?
I think just to
To
like,
show the severity?
I think the idea was that the local, governments are now gonna be making determinations
Yeah.
on that. And
Yes.
if you look at the change in the statute as of July 1st, I think most of that was moved from the health department
Yeah.
straight to the commissioners.
Yeah, I knew that. I was just trying to see if there were still parameters out there of.
They may have recommendations or guidelines.
I don't even
depending
think
on,
they
but I
have
don't
that anymore, but I can pull the
I
old.
do know, cause I had a conversation 3 times a day with the commissioners from Washington County and they shut their courthouse down again.
Really? While we were sitting here, Floyd County put out a mandate that they're requiring all kids to wear masks back to school.
So,
Just
is that the school system doing?
No, that was Dr. Harris, health officer. But the way I read Senate Bill 5 is, and you may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, like, basically he would have had to get permission from his commissioners to make a mandate like
The way I
that.
understood it was that you could do something.
Dr. Rogers could do something.
Well, Dr. Rogers could do something, and then if whoever he was dictating that directive to could say, I don't agree with you, and they could come to the Board of Commissioners, and the Board of Commissioners would take.
I believe that's the way it's structured, and actually,
Okay.
I think that a challenge to that by a citizen affected places the act in limbo, so that there's a stay on the order.
Yes, because that was
which, until a hearing is held.
correct. Meaning that the order does not take place
Correct.
until the hearing.
Until a
takes
hearing
place.
in front of the commission.
Yeah, that's the way I read it,
Okay.
was that you could, Dr. Rogers.
I haven't read it.
Thank you. I get nothing new as it is, so like, don't put that on me.
Dr. Rogers could make that determination to the, say, I'm gonna just reference to the school, he could
Yes.
say, you know, I'm mandating you do this.
Yeah,
They could say no,
yeah.
and at
But
that
they can
point,
email you and say,
yes,
we want to have a hearing about this
That's
mandate.
correct.
And then
that's the way I understand
you
it.
have 2 weeks to hear it.
Yeah, there's a time frame in
I
there.
think it's 2 weeks.
That's the way I understood it. It's
Yeah.
not saying that you're gonna just smack your hand, it's like, you know, the commissioners may agree with you. I
Right,
mean,
right.
and they may not agree
Right.
with you, I mean.
Well, my thinking is if we come to you before and say, hey, we want to do this, and you guys kind of say, okay, then if they appeal it for a hearing, you guys can always say, no, we're not going to have a hearing, we agree with the order as is, right? Or do you have to have a hearing no matter what?
I actually don't know the answer to that question. I'm trying to
Come
find
on,
an accurate.
Well, I think that's still gonna get challenged here pretty quick, cause like I said,
Yeah.
July the 1st, school's probably gonna be the biggest factor is gonna be, because,
Yeah.
you know, any business can still determine wear a mask or don't come in here, cause
Yeah.
it's their business, and quite honestly, I still believe that if I wanted to go in one of those places and they say, you know, wear one shoe and don't wear the other shoe, I guess if I wanna go in there, that's what I'm gonna do, but.
Right.
But in turn, the school's a little different, it's a bigger organization of
Yeah.
a lot of people. And
kids
they have a
get
board too, and I'm sure they've
Yes.
ironed out whatever they want to do or not do, and they probably have plans, you know, and I hope they do. I
Yeah.
mean, they got plans, and
Is the Alpha or Delta, either one affecting children worse than what it did the COVID?
So I think just, there are, like, you'll see the news, like, there's more children hospitalized, but that's because a lot of children can't get vaccinated. So just kind of the overlying theme of if you're unvaccinated, the likelihood of you having more issues with COVID or getting COVID because Delta's more contagious. You know what I mean? So when your denominator, if you look at it as a math problem, if your denominator's bigger and you know 10% of those people are gonna be hospitalized just based on statistics, you have a bigger denominator, more people are gonna be hospitalized. If that denominator has more children because they're unvaccinated, more children are gonna be hospitalized. So, that's how you split the
what's our
story.
number right now this week,
Uh,
roughly, I don't know.
49?
So out of those 49,
So-
how many of them have
I'm
symptoms?
actually wrong. So it's, they file the appeal and it's you can stay. Yeah, you get an option to stay it pending the outcome of the appeal.
So it's not
It's
automatically?
not automatic.
Okay. I would say quite a few of them, but I mean, without looking up every
So
single.
out of 49 or 40, 50, say, all those are symptomatic, all of them have
I would say a
symptoms?
majority of them,
And
yes.
that's probably how they're even knowing they're
And
sick.
that's-
Right, I mean, I don't think that someone would volunteer to go get COVID tested, but I
Oh,
can
yeah,
figure out.
sure, there's people
Are
out
you
there.
including the ones with the same address?
Yes,
Okay.
because they have a Scott County address. So that's why I said we'll have that little like notification that there's a congregated setting. So,
Yeah.
and that's, well, this week, that's probably about a little over 10.
So have you recommended the one place here in town to shut the door?
I thought that was happening last week, so when,
Well, I was told it was, but I was. like I
it's,
said,
yeah, it
I
should be
don't go
shut.
there
It
anyway, I
should
try to
be,
stay away from there.
it should be shut very tightly, yeah, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So it looks like a 45-day time frame for that appeal to.
Really?
It's 15 days for you all to decide if you want to hear it, 15 days to hear it, and then 15 days to issue your findings.
So,
You can't deem something denied though on the front end if
You can or can't?
can,
Can, okay.
so let me clarify what you're saying.
if they
If Dr.
Thank
Rogers
you.
tells somebody that they can't do something, And I'm gonna throw the school board out there. If the school board says, we're gonna do this, and Dr. Rogers says, no, I'm mandating that you can't do that. The school
The
board,
school board would have 7 days from the issuance of the order to file the appeal with you guys, who under this statute are the legislative body for the county for the purposes of it, because you manage the health department. Once that appeal is filed, you have to determine whether or not you're going to hear that appeal within 15 days. If you don't, it's just deemed denied. If you determine that you're gonna hear it within 15 days, you have to set a hearing date 15 days from the date that you've determined to hear it. And then when you hear it, there's 15 days for you to issue your findings. And during that period, you can decide whether or not to stay the order, leave it in effect.
so what,
Potentially.
Because it says
15
may,
days.
not shall. Potentially, yes.
May and
You
shall.
could have, it could be
so I guess to clarify that, if
shorter.
Dr. Rogers decides he's going to shut down basketball games at a school, and the school says, we're gonna appeal this, at that time, does the commissioners have a right or a thought to say, we're going to hear it? But does what was happening before Dr. Rogers said, I'm gonna mandate you stop having basketball games, does that stay in effect, or does the school?
That's what he's
You
saying.
can determine that that part of
So
the
we
statute
can say right off
says-
the bat,
You can
right now, we're temporarily giving you the authority to continue playing
Correct.
basketball.
You can say that, or
Okay,
you can say.
that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, so that's when he says may.
Yeah.
So may, stay the order means
The
avoid
thing is, the
it.
legislative body may stay the
Okay, so
enforcement.
we could send a letter back to all the parties saying, right now, we're gonna allow you to continue until we hear the case.
Yes. Or
Okay. Or
we're gonna
not.
honor Dr.
not.
Rogers'
That's-
mandate and
okay.
hear the.
I get that,
Yeah.
okay, all right, cause you were saying 15 days and 15 more days.
Say,
15,
Heck,
15, 15.
by the time summer school will be out.
I know, that's what I say,
That's
this
kind
one
of-
it could be that long. But yeah.
Okay.
And then just a quick reminder, a week from today at 1 o'clock, we have that unsafe building hearing. Which Zach, I apologize, I don't think I CC'd you on that because,
Is anybody
it's
gonna
still-
show up?
I don't know.
Are we talking about the?
Well, I guess he will, well,
We talking about one?
I don't think we want him, I wonder if he can do video.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah,
We don't want him over here probably.
actually, but I thought that's why we were having it here, so he
It
could
was while we
appear
were
if
having
he
it
could.
here, but now I'm remembering everything that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Do we wanna
Could he-
postpone that, or
Could
do
he
we
do
wanna
it,
do
could he
video?
do it by video over there? They do it,
I'll double check with,
cause they do it, the judges.
yeah, I'll double check,
Is there one or two?
there's two.
And the other one, even though we heard that he wanted to take care of what he did.
They
he
both said
didn't.
that they were gonna take care of it and nothing's been done, and
Okay.
one of them has actually completely collapsed. The one that is not,
The one that burned.
the one that could
well,
show up
they both burned.
is not, is completely collapsed.
So what?
That's
day
the new
like-
Frankfurt-
What day next week?
A week from today, at 1.
Wednesday at 1.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna be able to be there? Or do you need to be there?
Well, it's with Houston's office still, but I
Okay.
can, sorry, I'm so sorry, Zach, I didn't CC you on it.
I don't know.
Just a question,
what-
if it's completely collapsed, does that change it to like, just
What-
needs
what's
to
the
have,
It's,
us
we condemned a
moving
couple
the-
properties.
just
Oh,
the
uh,
grade?
Safe.
Does that change the type?
Safe for human.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't
both of
know
them's
because,
been
you know
burnt.
how we get the
And then
cleanup.
one
I think
got
a dwelling
scared
is a
and one
dwelling.
back together and,
Yeah.
and the other one, I think he was saying he's just gonna tear it down anyway, so, but evidently he hasn't done that.
Right, yeah.
I can be there, that's fine.
Okay,
What
would it
day
be
is
helpful if I
this?
sent you like a example of what they did last time? I think it's been
Yeah,
a few
that's
years,
fine.
but.
What
What
day
day
is
is
it?
this?
A
She
week
said
from
next
today,
Wednesday.
1 o'clock,
1
I
o'clock.
reserved this room with Lisa.
Okay, so, all right, okay, well, you'll be here.
And it's a
okay, that's gonna
hearing.
Work out okay, because if they, you think it'll take about an hour for that, because
Okay, I hope
I'm
not.
trying to set you guys a meeting on the 11th at 2
I don't think it'll take an hour.
for redevelop for the small
Oh,
business
okay,
grant.
oh, okay, okay.
We'll coordinate this.
I
I'm
don't
trying
think
to-
it'll take an
Oh,
hour.
I
Okay,
see
good.
what, I see.
That'll work.
I see what you.
I don't think it'll take an hour,
It won't take all time.
yeah,
Good, that'll give us a break. Perfect,
okay.
okay, at 1 PM on August 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You might fill
I'll make
him
a
in
note
on
for
one of those.
Yeah, I know you have the ordinance, Zach, because I sent you the ordinance.
Yeah.
But I'll send you an example of a property that we did before. So basically, it'll be a hearing where you guys, if somebody shows up, they'll kind of plead their case on if they're gonna clean it up or not, and then if you guys decide to have it ordered to be cleaned up, then you would just sign an order. That's just what I've.
Do you advertise? Do you put it in the paper for the public hearing and then post it on the door?
I would think the notice would go to the person who owns the property.
Yes, they sent a
Okay.
certified letter. Houston
Because I
posted.
think that your all's ordinance tracks, is essentially like the order under, there's an IC code that talks about all this and an administrative code that has it too, but the IC code, you all can issue the order, I think, under your all's ordinance, but the order
Yes.
becomes effective, but the person would still have a right to appeal to a court, I think. But
Probably, I mean, that's all.
I think I think that's what happened last time. They said if they didn't agree with it, it would then go to in front of a
yeah,
judge.
'cause
Yeah.
the statute, I think, says that.
Yeah, but I mean, people have any issues
Sure,
either
sure.
way. Right,
Yeah.
so, and I think that's one in each of your districts, I don't think John's, New
Yeah.
Frankfurt and Lover's Lane,
Yeah.
is that right?
That's fine.
Okay.
Marcel, you got one more question?
Yeah, the one on New Frankfurt, I've got an aunt lives there, plus there's 2 little ladies, and I've got a lot of friends on that road. This has been going on for over 6 years. It's not only that the school has collapsed or whatever, they haul trash in there, they burn. They put a shed in there, they're living there, no plumbing, no water. I mean, over 6 years, I mean.
I know.
Yeah.
They're concerned because some of the people that lives there, the widow ladies, and not knowing what's going on there at the time and different things. But, you know, they're wanting to resolve, they're gonna come to the meeting, if that's what it took to try to get something done about this, but.
Yeah, the hearing
I feel
is-
like that some of them, you know, I don't know about the health department, if they've let this linger and linger, I mean, 6 years,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah,
it's-
no, I totally agree.
You know, and then you've let them put that shed on there, I mean, they're trying to get a place to live and just
I didn't-
keep adding to it, I mean, to me, that's.
I didn't know
that
there
should
was
be
a
shut down
shed out
before the shed even got there.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
they.
What,
They were living under tarps, there's
Well, they-
tarps out there so that they were
I
living
mean,
in.
that brings up an excellent question. Why does it take 6 years? Or how does that happen?
I don't really have a great answer
Actually,
for that.
I think I may answer that.
Okay, great.
It's just kinda like what you've told me before.
Well, the
And
politics.
well, I don't know who, I won't be honest, I don't even know who owns the property, so it's not me, you know, hiding for somebody, but I think it technically takes somebody to complain and file a written complaint, say, and bring it in front of somebody to say, hey, I'm officially doing this, because I get a lot of people go, hey, you know, so-and-so house over here does this, and until you officially go to her and go, hey, they're putting a building up over here, and they didn't come get a permit, that stops everything. I mean, that red flags go up, but in these situations, and I've had Tim go out and look at places that I think they're bad, but until a neighbor or someone complains, you know,
In written form?
me as a commissioner
Right.
can't do that. It has to be a homeowner that is going to complain about that. It can't be me just going around going, well, I'm gonna be the Nazi today, and, you know, these 10 properties are gonna, you know, I'm gonna do something with. I can't, that is not how it works, and I apologize if, you know, if that's, you know, if somebody tried to do that and it didn't happen, but, you know, we're trying to take care of some
Yeah.
things, and this
My
is not
understanding-
the first or second, third, fourth one that we've done. We're getting pretty aggressive with doing that now and holding people accountable, so.
Well, they had knowledge of this, I believe the court thing was filed through Houston, been quite a few months ago. And I talked to that Tim Berner,
Yeah.
he said it's been going on over 6 years, like his hands was tied. And like some of the neighbors had checked on it, first it was in her hands, then it was in their hands, then it was
Yeah.
in Houston's hands. Just like everybody's passing the buck.
Yeah.
Well,
And I feel like it wouldn't have been as a burden on that family, had they stepped up and did what they were supposed to. Now they got that shed in there.
well, I'm gonna tell you, a couple
Parks.
of meetings ago, I was told that, somebody said they knew the homeowner and said he acted like, oh, I didn't know anything about it and I'll get it cleaned up. Well, it's obvious that's not happening, so.
And how many drive-bys have people done? I mean, when there's a complaint, do they even go out there and look, or they just
Oh,
throw it
yeah.
on their desk?
I do know that happens, but like I said, if this one got shoved around, I'm gonna apologize as a board of commissioners, but I hope people will continue to voice their opinion and complain, whether it's to the health department for any kind of trash or I
Unsafe
know,
dwelling, anything.
yeah, and
Public
if,
health.
and the other part of that, if anybody, I mean, everybody doesn't drive around on every street trying to find somebody doing something different, but if they're putting buildings or building on or putting tent lean-tos, they need to go to her, and then she sends, our inspector out, and he'll file a complaint or whatever, and then, that goes to the, zoning board and everything else, so.
Like I said, most of them's elderly, there's 2 widows out there, and there's another guy that's retired, and they feel like they're just beating a dead horse.
Yeah, well, that dead horse is coming to permission next week, so,
Thank you.
so. Anything else?
I think I'm good, you guys are good.
Don't believe I have anything else. Check with Steven and
Yes.
get with Jeff if you need that sign.
Okay, thank you guys.
Plan Commission appointment. And we've had a change of heart, I think.
Okay, I sent all 3 commissioners last week this letter. Because of Pat Bridgewater's death, we have a seat open on the Advisory Plan Commission. And I asked both of my boards if they had any suggestion as to who would be interested in serving on that, and I haven't gotten any reply. So I just happened to run into Steve Harold, who serves as a detective with the Scottsburg Police Department, but he does live in Lexington Township and actually lives right across from some property that Pat Bridgewater owned, and asked him if he might be interested. I thought, he's had experience serving on a school board. He knows how meetings are conducted, and he's fairly interested, in seeing things done here in the county. So I have sent you a letter asking for,
You got that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll make a motion to accept Steve Harold as, and Randy seconds that. We'll make that unanimous too.
And then I also, and I appreciate that, I also
So you'll
have,
contact him?
I will. He'll be excited when I tell him.
That's good.
Yeah. I've got the report for July, and on the back is comparison from a year ago in July. Last year, very odd. July was extremely active last year. We had fewer permits this year. We had 19 as compared to 22 in July of 2020. But if you look down at the total estimated cost of improvements, that figure is 1.3 million for this past July. And it was only 838,000 last July, even though there were more permits issued. And you've got to consider, the cost of materials. Everybody's prices have gone up.
So this is 1 month.
1 month.
Well, I do know there's been several homes, and not just small homes, being built in Scott County. And,
Yeah, when they build, they're building big.
yeah, there's a $500,000 one being built right now.
Yeah.
And it's a builder building it to sell. So,
Great.
so somebody's buying wood or cutting trees down and
Well,
doing something.
if they can find the material, and, we still got quite a backlog in projects that are still hanging
Not
fire
closed,
because
yeah.
they can't get the material to finish the project so that Ben can go out and do final
Yeah,
inspections.
I do know that too,
I believe the materials come back down just a little bit, didn't it?
well,
A little.
I was talking with,
And these last 2 weeks have been kind of crazy down there because, it's like people been holding on to this project for a couple of months and going, by golly, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So
yeah, I've
they've been
talked
running
to
in.
somebody that, about a bridge that we're you know, we're gonna have to build one of these days. And, he's saying right now, used to be that you can get steel in 3 months, right now it's 6 months, and he goes, it may be, by the end of the year, it may be shoved out farther than that, so.
Yeah.
It still hasn't went down at all.
And it's not going down.
So
That's
anyway,
another story.
yeah,
All right,
there you
thank
go, guys.
Appreciate it.
And I appreciate your action on that. I will let Mr. Harold know.
Okay.
Thanks for talking us into it.
Oh, no problem.
I guess this is Tammy probably. Voting precinct redistrict.
I've got the survey,
So,
copy of that, and that's in your packet, yeah, and I'm gonna defer Zach on this. We've had a couple conversations, but.
yeah,
he's,
so, we have a deadline of August 11th to complete the survey that is in there. And Wendy could not be here tonight, but basically, this survey is, if I'm understanding it correctly, is to request some help in determining whether or not redistricting is something that the commissioners would want to do. This isn't, you're not making a final determination to redistrict at this point, but this is the deadline to submit the, I guess, the application for assistance from some of the state agencies that will help with that. And if we find out down the road that the county would meet the criteria to redistrict or re-precinct, that is a discussion. The deadline is for, I think, in December, I think.
I thought there was another meeting in August with the state.
I can't remember
that-
the
that-
timeline.
Cause that's where I was kinda confused with a deadline like this, and then I heard there was another, there is a meeting the state's having about redistricting, but,
Well, this survey, I think, is going to give the state an indication of how many counties want to
If we-
redistrict.
if we think there is. I mean, I guess my question would be to Wendy, and I know she's sent some emails and stuff, but I mean, does she believe there's enough to move stuff
Our
or
population
not?
did not go up, and that's kind of what the precincts are, but do you like the lines and where they're at? Do you want to think
Check.
about where your population is at? The questions that Zach and I
And
talked
there
about,
is
did it shift? Did we increase?
If there are annexations or something
Yeah.
like that can change.
That may have
Yeah.
shifted the number that you have in each precinct because you want them,
Okay, so I guess
Equitable.
I'm gonna ask a question. If we fill this out and say, yes, we're gonna send this to them, I guess we can determine later that,
you want to readopt the same lines if you
Yeah.
don't want to change.
so we can say, hey, yes, we wanna do this, but then down the road we can say, well, we've looked at it again and we don't
Analyze
see
it,
anything
no
that's
need.
changed and leave it like it is.
Puts you through the deadline line.
Pardon me?
It puts you in the queue.
Yeah,
Yes.
if we don't do anything, then we're
You don't do
done.
it,
Yeah, if you don't do anything, then you, yeah.
Well, I've seen that squiggly line and it, sometimes it, so.
This
what-
is, like you said,
what's
that's a
your
good
thoughts?
point, Adam. It puts us,
I like
it
it.
marks a place for us
Redistrict.
that if we have a choice
And
now.
I think it's, again, it's not, like you said, it's not a decision to redistrict, it's just puts you in a,
I think we need to be in that queue.
yeah.
Okay, well, Randy, is that, you gonna do it in a form of a motion or
Yeah, I'll make a
something?
motion.
Randy makes a motion to fill out the 2022 precinct change survey and, to, send it, have Wendy send it on to the state, to look at possibly redistricting.
And my question is for number 4, it says, why are you changing these boundaries? That's kind of more, I think the commissioners might need to answer that question. Is it because of population growth? Well, we don't have that according to the census numbers right now. City or town annexations, that could be a potential reason. County, city, or town redistricting. I think if we just check that box, that would be my recommendation on the survey, is to check the county, city, or town redistricting. I just think that's just the general catch-all thing.
I think that's fine.
Is that okay?
I mean,
if
is
we
this
check that?
something Wendy needs to fill out and send?
And then if you guys wanna send that with that recommendation to check that
I
box.
think that the commissioners would fill that out and complete the survey, and then Wendy would,
Send it to the quick surveys people, okay. So that's
That's
the
fine.
only one I would have a question, I think, on here, what you guys wanted.
There's no population growth, so the only thing it'd be is if, something changed within the city limits or stuff like that,
redistricting.
so I'd
Okay.
say that's fine.
Okay,
You agree?
Yeah.
And there's a,
But there's no place to sign this, so.
Yeah.
no, and where's, yeah, and I'll get
So
it to
you're gonna
her.
fill it out?
Yeah.
Alright, sounds good.
just for you guys, there's a webinar, I think, tomorrow on redistricting.
That might be what I was thinking about. Cause I
from-
had some other people telling me about it.
Yeah, and then there are some other deadlines, but they're not immediate like this one is, so we'll have another opportunity to talk.
But now that won't change our districts as far as lines.
It could move, you could move over and pick up a road or so, but the way I understand it, there's not a whole lot of change, but there could be. I mean, depends on population of each district right now. I mean, and those lines over the years have got really squirrely of how like, especially District 3, where it goes out to Lexington and then comes back and goes
one
out.
does the same thing.
Yeah,
I pick up the city of Austin, but then I go all the way back to Bogartis.
yeah. But then District 3 goes down
Out
Pear
around.
Road. Yeah, it's
And
kind
I
of,
think it's the
but they're
population,
they're pulling for population.
Right,
And,
but I think it makes it harder on on our population here to know who to talk to, you know?
well, I agree
Because
with
it's
that.
hard for me to explain to them, you know, look, I have the city of Austin, but I don't have Water Tower Road in Austin. You know, it's, they think you're giving them the runaround.
Right.
Well, I think some of
So
it
it's
is,
just to make it simple.
And they should get on the scott.in.gov map that we have, and they can pull up a layer, and it shows them, if they can find their road, then they can
Yeah.
find their district. And that may be something,
But when you're,
yeah,
some people, you know,
don't have the
and I'm not
access
picking
to
on nobody,
internet.
but my mom at
Yeah.
80 years old don't know how to do that.
right, exactly.
but,
Exactly.
but some of that is, and being a commissioner or being a sheriff or, auditor, or some of those are, they're elected by everybody in the county, so those technically don't have anything to do with this. I mean, it's,
Right.
it's when you get in,
Except for-
it's when you get into councilman, and not even a councilman at large, you're getting a councilman of districts. Those are the ones that are, you know, getting really, you know, picky about picking up those votes and not, so. I get what you're saying, I mean, cause people go, where's your district start? I go, well, it starts at the Jefferson County line, comes down, you know, Blotcher Road, then it comes up Napa Road and goes 56 all the way into town, then it goes to Fifth Street to Owen Street and goes all the way to, you know, and then it comes back out and goes to Boatman Road and goes all the way to Clark County line.
It's just
Well, you know, but there's a part of Lexington out there, or District 3, that goes through Vienna all the way to Lexington that cuts, so it's, I mean, but I will say this, especially, some of those people, you know, I'll just tell them it's John's district and they can call him. I'm joking, but there was a lady then, and God bless her, she, John would talk to her, I'd talk to her, Kelly talked to her, I'd talk to her, and she never got the answer she wanted anyway, so it didn't matter.
Which commissioner?
So, anyway, alright, we voted to move that on back to Wendy and fill out the form and send it, so. EMS, paramedic training program interim director appointment, contact quotes of vehicle swap.
So one of the major things is we have until August the 9th to have
Yeah.
a program director. Whenever we sent the last one that was signed, they had on there, they don't have to have a bachelor's degree. Well, we haven't got our full acceptance letter, so we're still on a letter review. So that whole form is obsolete for them. It's for those that's already been accredited. We were one class away from being accredited. So we have to find somebody that's a program director. We have 5 days to get it back to them. If not, they're gonna voluntarily make us bow out.
Yeah, she, I think you got an email too, didn't you get copied on that?
Yeah.
So, also, talking about that is, there's 5 that's left from the last class that needs their letter to be able to test. Well, you can't do that until you have a program director.
So what you're saying is that the last paramedic class we had, is it the paramedic class?
Yep.
The last paramedic class we had, they have still not got all their documents together to be able to.
So out of 5 of them, 3 of them has turned it into us, and they're saying, hey, we need you to authorize us to be able to test for our paramedic. But we have nobody that can authorize that until we have a.
Okay.
So what happened was Jacob had essentially a contract for that class that he would finish it out. Well, Shannon voided that contract. Remember, he put Heather Woods in place instead. So we reached back out to Jacob to see what he would do, because we still have those 5 that need to. So Jacob offered us a contract that would extend until November the 2nd. And he said if the contract's there, he's going to tell the last 5 they have until November. If they don't turn it in the 1st of November, then they're out of luck because they've ran out of time. But on top of that, now we're going to have to pay him, whereas before we wasn't, before we voided the last contract with him. So he's asking for $5,000, essentially $1,000 per student. And in here, it says that he would begin as the interim program director August the 4th. He would remain until November. The first payment would be $2,500. That's due 30 days after the contract's signed, and then the last $2,500 is due 30 days after the contract ends, which he put in there, the contract will automatically end on November the 4th. And that's just, he wanted me to iterate, that is just to get the last class done. He's not interested in starting a new class or being the program director for that.
I guess my question would be, since August the 8th or August the 9th is the deadline that we have to have somebody on, that would lock that in.
Yeah.
And then, I guess down the road, you know, past August the 9th, if we're going to continue the paramedic class, which I would like to, I know that there's a lot of things up in the air right now about that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see that continue. Maybe I think you told me, or somebody told me, we had some people interested in that class already. Is there 10?
I think we're up to 12 now. That's
12.
turned in an application, but that's without us advertising.
Well, so in turn, my wife hates me saying in turn, so we have 12 people that want to start another paramedic class. What is that? It's $5,000.
$6,500.
$6,500 to
The only thing
pay for the
is,
class.
5 if not 6 out of the 12 are our own employees that get either 50% off
Yeah.
or 30% off.
And that's fine. I agreed with that too. I think that's good.
So I did meet with the oversight committee, which Gene and Raymond showed up for that. We discussed the continuance of the paramedic program. Their recommendation, as well as Jacob's recommendation, was to postpone it, not to end it completely, but to postpone it until we kind of get more of our ducks in a row. Because if we started the class right now, we don't really have people named that can be the instructor, whereas this last class was set to start August the 23rd.
Yeah.
And there's been no preparation, and whoever takes over the program director, now you only give them that amount of time to
Yeah.
get stuff ready for the class, to get a syllabus and all that ready.
I agree with that. And like I said, I'd rather delay it to, say, you know, January 1st or whatever, to get everybody, you know, set again and feet on the ground.
And then,
So $5,000 to just pretty much facilitate the end of the
last class.
last class.
I will tell you that we do have a line item that was already budgeted for this year for contractual agreements like this. We currently have 12,000 still in that line item, so we won't have to go to the council for that money. We have it.
Well, so to clarify, Jacob was the program director at the start of the paramedic class,
Yes, sir.
that particular class. And he was contracted, was he not paid?
No, he was never paid. It was kind of, we let some of the J-Town people take the class instead of paying him.
That's fine.
Which in return actually helped us out, saved us some money.
Yeah.
But, and he was contracted to finish out the whole class. Shannon terminated that contract whenever he put Heather Woods as the program director. And then, of course, whenever he was let go, she immediately followed suit and terminated it.
Yeah, I know, I got that letter
That's-
too.
That's why it only gave us until August the 9th to find somebody, and we still have those 5 people, which is 3 of them. I have all their paperwork.
Well,
I just can't approve
it's
them.
not fair to those people to go through if anybody ever knows what that class is, it is not an easy class, and it is time consuming. And I do not want to hinder any of those 5 people from completing what they've already put their heart and soul into. So if I'm gonna say it, if you had $12,000 already on a line item, we haven't spent it.
Right.
I'm gonna make the recommendation that we pay him the $5,000 and get these 5 people through.
So if we sign this contract, we also have to sign him for a interim director position, because that's the person that, it goes hand in hand, and we can terminate that at any time, or it automatically terminates November the 4th.
I thought they would not allow an interim.
They will allow an interim with a bachelor's degree, and he has the bachelor's degree. Yeah, that
Well,
was
I thought the
only-
reason they said you couldn't do it was because we are not accredited, we have a
We're
letter.
under a letter of review, so it requires somebody to have a bachelor's degree, whether they're
Okay,
interim or
alright.
yeah.
Okay,
So
all
is
right.
your motion to appoint Jacob Carroll as interim
That's correct.
paramedic class and
From
enter into a
August
$5,000
the 4th
contract?
to November the 1st.
November the 4th.
November the 4th.
Yes, sir.
Also, with that, will he sign that letter that goes back to the accreditation people and
Yeah,
and
so
shows that
that's
we have a
co-ans.
director?
Yep, so that's what this form is here. He's already signed both of them, in hopes that we would sign it. And then, Pat, tomorrow when she comes in, we can go ahead and send that
Okay.
to, it's Lynn
So we'll-
Brothers.
Okay,
And
Yeah,
so that'll
I've
take care of that,
talked
and
to
we
her.
won't have to worry about that August 9th deadline.
okay.
But he also wanted me to say that he wasn't trying to backdoor anybody. He's
I know
only doing
that.
this out of the grace of trying to help out those last 5
Well,
people.
Jacob's a stand-up person, I'm not denying that, so.
Just moving forward, for me, if you don't mind, if you're coming and you ask, if we're gonna spend money from here, I would like to have a copy of the financials.
Yes, sir.
I just wanna see it from now on, after our past experience, I think. I
No,
can
no,
understand.
I completely understand that. Yes,
Well, and I'm gonna clarify that a little bit. We're asking a lot of departments to do that instead
Yeah,
of just saying, well, I got it,
Yeah.
You was just the first one that I had to ask for money.
No.
We wanna verify that,
And I
here's what it
did talk
is.
to Tammy.
And there's
beforehand,
times when
yeah.
we can ask her, but sometimes unless she jumps up and runs in there and pulls it up, she's not,
Yeah, there was
she
that
doesn't
lot
know
of
that
lines.
either, but,
So that's that.
but anyway.
Show up briefly.
So we need to sign anything for this?
Yeah, so the first one you're signing is him, that you're okaying him to be the interim director. That one has to sign by you, Mike, since you're the actual dean of the paramedic class. Then that second one, 2 or 3 pages long, that's the contract that he typed up.
How you see the financials?
Can I look at the contract?
Yes. Wait a minute.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's the same one that we used for him before.
Yeah.
He just amended the times and stuff.
There's that back.
I'm gonna wait for the lawyer.
Is it in my mind, or am I thinking about old Disney character? His name was Dean Jones.
Oh, there was a Dean Jones on the Beetle, the bug.
Whenever he called you a dean, I was like, Dean Jones.
Yeah. When we talked to Lynn, that's what she said. She said Mike's the dean of the class, so he has to be the one that signs it.
You need to sign that too.
So the other thing that I had for y'all was when we talked about doing the trade with County Highway.
Yes.
I just got the quotes together for what we would have to ask for, and for our Colorado to be up to date, be able to be licensed through the state as an emergency vehicle. And so I got the estimates from Jensen's. They're the ones that installed all the radios and stuff in our current one. It was just for them to switch it over, and then the
Yeah.
striping of all that. And the total of it was $5,304 to have everything striped over. And then I also have pictures for just the basic striping that we were doing on it, nothing fancy like we did the ambulances. Just like this. The truck's white, so that line would be blue. We'd have our logo here, and then just say Scott County EMS at the bottom. And then the back of it, we changed, instead of the red and yellow, we
That's
just done the blue and
actually
yellow.
required by.
Yeah, this is required by the state.
But they want $5,300 for the switching the radios around?
So that would be for the graphics and the radios, the lights, all of it to switch over.
Do they have that
Yes.
itemized on there?
Yes, sir.
Broke down?
So
will the light bar off of the other truck?
that's what I asked Kevin, and he said he believes he can change the brackets and make it to be able to.
Cause it looks like it's bigger.
Is this?
That's the rest of it right there.
Nope.
I think
Are you good with that, Zach? It's pretty elementary.
Yeah, I think it was the same one he had last time. Because he's able to do it pretty quick for me. And I just wanted to give you the idea, that way if we had to go to council to ask for any money, that's where.
Did, I wasn't here, that was that one I was half in, half out about that. Did the highway department act like they might have had some money, or was that something I didn't hear? or-
Well, they're going, we haven't ironed that out yet.
Cause they're getting a bump up in a vehicle.
Yeah, no, they would agree to pay for it, but the money wise, we didn't know where we were standing.
Yeah.
Because we're
And that's
talking
why I done
about
that,
two
just so
totally
you
different
understand.
funding mechanisms that have paid for the things that are in each
Yeah.
department, so we would have to make sure that, because one's
Oh.
taxes, one's not
The
taxes.
total was $1,555.
That's for the lights that we switched over. Then the graphics is, there's 3 separate quotes there. One's from the top and the slide out. The last page is for the graphics of it.
Who's the guy with graphics?
That's Zincs.
So did we check with Brandon?
I've not got a phone call back.
I'd like to also, for the graphics, to check with Brandon, and who else we got?
I don't know
The
anybody.
Babs boys, Jason Babs and,
I didn't know they did that.
yeah.
Can you get me a contact for Jason Badger? Do you know his company?
Yeah, Jason. I'll send you his contact.
Okay, appreciate it.
But yeah, I'd
Well-
like to have more quotes on that.
So on the, I guess I'm gonna ask a question about the state requirements. Does the state require you to mark the vehicle with,
So it has to have some,
Stripes.
yeah, it has to have some sort of marking on it, whether we just do,
so I can get a crayon out there and mark?
yeah. So all the striping, so the striping, just the graphics of it was only $699. So that's for everything to be reflective. So our badge would be reflective, and then the stripe down the side would be reflective as well as the back.
Okay. So 699, how much is 15,000?
That was $3,050.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
So changing the lights, putting a radio in it is $1,555, correct?
Correct, as long as the light bar fits. That was, Kevin would have to measure both of them. He didn't have both vehicles to measure that.
So then the next one is Louisville toppers.
Yeah, that was the topper and the slide out.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah,
I guess I'm gonna ask a question, and that's why I've got a Durango and not a
yeah.
pickup truck. How much of a necessity is a slide out?
So the slide out,
I know what it is.
Yeah, the slide out, I'd rather we have the slide out than the topper. The only reason is the bed of the truck, when you pull on scene, anytime you put the brakes on, everything slides up. And so you have to try to either crawl in there to get it out, or if you have to slide out, you pull it out to be able to get it. Each of the response vehicles has like the monitor, a ALS bag, Lucas device, suction and all that. So
I get
unless we
that.
bought something that we could keep it up closer to the back of it to be able to reach,
How much does this all weigh?
You what?
I have not a clue.
Take a guess, how much does it weigh?
The slide out or
No, the equipment that you're sliding out.
the equipment, I would say,
A couple $100.
yeah, nothing more than that.
There's I get what you're saying, and this is one reason I'm against pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Because you buy a truck, which is higher than a Durango or a SUV.
Yep.
And then you turn around and spend $4,000 more putting a topper on it and the slide out.
Be able to get the
To
equipment,
have,
yeah.
to to be able to reach the equipment you got, and so then technically the bed of the truck is useless.
Yep.
So that's why, you know, I probably will never approve another pickup truck for, any service.
Yeah, and I apologize, it wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
that's not you, I'm the one that actually approved it as well, but
Well,
I would probably not do it again.
No, I understand that.
So,
For us though, budget wise too, it'd be less on us fuel wise.
I get that, but like I said,
you know,
the price is
Yeah.
not
let's,
apples.
we need to hold off on
And this wasn't asked for a motion, just to let you know when we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That was just, and you all can have this copy.
Get estimates for the other two things, and let me think about that slide out.
Alright, yes, sir.
Might
And then,
find one someplace.
did you wanna talk about Stryker? I didn't have it on.
I will, I mean, and I'll bring that up again, cause Marcel brought it up earlier, but it's, I will reach out to
Okay,
Stryker in the morning. If he don't call me back or don't answer his phone, I will reach out to someone until somebody answers the phone. If he doesn't return my call tomorrow, I'm gonna call him,
yeah,
and I'm gonna have him send a letter to him stating that we're gonna return 16 Lucas devices, and we don't wanna be charged for them down the road, so.
so, just to
Are
talk,
you all right with that?
that. Yeah, absolutely, all right with that.
I did reach out to Clay several times, send him emails. Pat did the same thing. Every once in a while, he would give me a back, like, hey, I'll be up there today. Never showed up. I did call corporate because we were just trying to see what we have outstanding, because we had never received anything. After we reached out to corporate told us, like, we don't have that, you all have that product. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna lie to you, we do have that product. Whenever we got it, just to clarify, they were talking about them being in the heat. They were moved out in the heat. So Shana was let go July 7th. That next week was when I had to go up to state police camp. So the following week, when we had the commissioners meeting, John asked me, he did ask that, which was 2 weeks ago, where that stuff was at. And I said, yes, it was in the shipping container. John, as well as Raymond and the oversight committee said, hey, let's move that stuff inside in hopes that nothing's damaged, we can return it. That was done that week. So then last week, John called me again and he said, hey, Shannon told me that there was no perishable items out there that could be damaged in the heat. Is that true? And I told him everything that we got from Stryker was indeed in there. There was nothing that was left out. It was all out there. But it had all been moved in prior. But I mean, since we've got it, it's set out there, so it's not like it's...
So, these are still in the original boxes?
Some of them are. So, and this was all without my knowledge. After Shannon was let go, Mike Hagan from Lexington Fire let me know that Shannon had already given him an AED and a Lucas device. Scottsburg Fire has also already got an AED. I don't know, like, the boxes are all white and they don't really say on them like Lucas device on it. So without the big boxes, some of them have several AEDs in them, so we would have to actually open it up to see how many's in each. Those are the only two departments that I know. And that was one of the reasons why we were reaching out to Stryker too, was Scottsburg Fire used their AED to actually shock a patient. And the doctor's office is asking for that data so they can put a defibrillator in her. They need to know what rhythm she was in, and they want to see all that information. So I relayed that to Stryker. He still refused to get back with me. So yesterday, the nurse practitioner of that patient called me. She talked to Eric first because it was Scottsburg Fire's AED. And the cord that pulls that data off is a Stryker cord that Stryker reps have. So they have to come with their software to pull it off. So we didn't have access to be able to do that. And I gave her the phone number for try to reach him, and she is yet to be able to get a hold of me either.
So, is it your gut feeling that the units that are inside the box are inside a styrofoam circle?
They are packaged, yeah. From the ones that we opened, there were several like they're cardboard alley. However, I don't know about heat with the batteries. That's the only thing.
But, I mean, there's a chance they could be all right if it's.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Well, the other part of that is, so the AEDs came from Stryker as well?
All of it did. So we asked Stryker to give us a list, and they never did. But we got in the mail a lease. It was a LESO program. They're wanting us to sign a lease. Well,
So we
Andrew,
haven't signed anything.
well, Andrew gave me access to Shannon's old email, and he said, here, try to figure out what you need to. And so I went back through conversation with Shannon and Stryker, and he had sent him a form to have the commissioners sign for this lease program after he didn't get the grants that he wanted to. To my knowledge, nothing was ever sent back to
I
Clay
never signed anything.
from anything being signed by the commissioners. So that's why I don't think we are on the hook for all that stuff from Stryker. I think the stuff that we have open, we'll probably have to pay for, without a doubt. But I don't think it'll be anywhere near the $642,000 that's on that lease that they're trying to get us to sign.
So what are you thinking?
You don't have any paperwork that has even a Shannon's signature on there
No, sir.
authorizing a sale or purchase or any type of lease agreement?
No, so the lease agreement was sent to his email, but along with it, there was conversation about, since he didn't get the grant, to go ahead and do this lease, but they wanted 200 and something thousand for the first payment and then pay per year for it. And he said, it has on there, the commissioners have to sign it, and there was nothing ever given back to him. He sent it a couple of times saying, hey, we need to move forward with the first payment.
Is there any email talking about any of this?
Yeah, that's all in the email.
Can I look at that email?
Absolutely, you can. And I think I forwarded it to you all.
I saw something.
That's the emails that I was forwarding to you all.
How long have we had these machines?
We've had them since last year.
Yeah,
And
'cause
there was talk in there, the reason why,
I don't know why we wanna buy them, they're outdated now.
well, it says, on the email, it says the reason why it hadn't been invoiced before was because they were waiting on pediatric temperature probes. And so we hadn't officially got all the product that he was getting, so that's why they hadn't invoiced us. However, now, even whenever I call headquarters and I ask them, they don't have record that we have this stuff. The only thing it has is through the LISO program. We've tried calling them, because they're LISO and Stryker together, and you can't get nobody to talk on the phone. And so that's when I reached out to Mike, because
My whole thing is.
we're getting nowheres with
It
it.
falls back into the CARES Act of vendors sending you equipment, knowing that you've inquired about something,
Yeah.
and they just send it to you.
Yeah.
I know in November Shannon put on Facebook that they received it, and it was,
Well, I know that because I've been talking to him throughout meetings, asking him, hey, when we're gonna get those Lucas devices? And he's telling me they're waiting for Stryker to come down to give a training, which I called, I didn't realize he gave Lexington one, so if he gave them one, they didn't get training, so.
that was on Facebook too.
Kyle, will you need some of these Lucas devices for the department?
there's
How many of these will you need?
I will say, we have at least 10 of them that I know of that are open, that have been out. The one that's in the 10 out of the 16, like she said, because Lucas devices, actually, there should be only 9, because Scottsburg didn't get a Lucas, to my knowledge.
We didn't get one.
But I also know that 2 out of, I think there's 12 AEDs that was purchased. And the Lucas devices on this LISO program, that's the only thing I can refer to, because they haven't given us an invoice of how much things is like almost $13,000 per Lucas device.
How many does Scott County EMS itself need?
So we have 8.
Do we need them, number one? Do we need these new Lucas devices?
All the ambulances, to my knowledge, are equipped with a Lucas device.
So is all 3 chase vehicles.
So everybody, they are already
They are
equipped.
outfitted.
Besides, these extras are all
Yeah.
extra.
So I would say 9 of them we're on the hook for.
No,
But that's also if,
That's not the question, it's need.
No.
How much does the department need?
What she's saying is, I guess.
I would say 8 of them. That's if you want the ambulances to have them.
I'm looking at what are we going to owe?
Well, that's the thing, is we've made some payments to Stryker, because yesterday, I know it was kind of hectic, but Teresa and Pat and I was going through CARES money and redevelopment money, and there's payments made to Stryker, but we don't know what those are to, because they're not giving us an invoice for it.
Well, if we keep 10 of them, what'd you say they were, 13 something?
They're under 13, they're right at 13 though,
So
a piece.
1,300, and you're saying we need, if we keep 10,
13,000 a piece.
13,000 apiece.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know what that number is, I don't know the calculator.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think, okay, what do we have? What are we needing to keep? What is the actual purchase that we
Well,
have?
I would
And
say
then
maybe
what can
get
we
in touch
send
with
back?
Stryker.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
That's correct.
I guess what I'm saying is that if we've opened a box and we've used one of those devices, then it's null and void, we're buying it.
If
So-
we used it, not if we just opened it.
Oh, yeah, you can, if it's still where it's
Yeah.
packaged and I don't know if it's like anything else, it's got a battery in it, you pull the strip out and all of a sudden now you can start charging it. If that strip's still there, that means we haven't used it, we haven't charged it. I think in my simple mind, I'd say you could probably take it back. If that strip is pulled out, like your phone, where you go, okay, now it's activated, we're on the hook.
Yeah, they have,
Can we get those brought into here?
I wouldn't bring them in here.
it would,
There's too many
it would take
people
almost
coming in.
half of this entire
Yeah, they're
wall
big,
to.
they're big item.
I have,
Oh, they are?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I have them out at EMS. John came out and seen them work. We showed him what they were.
Is there a room that
Well,
you
you
can
can
see?
put
They're in
them in
our,
office.
well, they're in our training room. Our training room has 2 cameras that's recorded all the time. That way if they walk off, we know who did it.
Well, I'm not worried about them walking
Right.
off.
Well, it was just, yeah.
I just, if we have some that are never been used, I'd like to continue to have them never be used. You know? So,
Yeah.
so
And
I
those-
was under the, and I'm gonna be frank here, I was under the impression that none of them have been used. So, I didn't realize that we were using them. I know we had some before.
So the 2 we had before was a grant that EMA got and gave us. To my knowledge, those were given back to EMA, and we put the new ones on the truck.
What's EMA doing with them?
Nope.
I
That I
was
have
gonna
not a
say, I
clue.
didn't know,
That's-
EMA was responding to
That was
our
just-
attacks.
We got them from them, and that's, I think Jeff keeps one in his car.
Again,
I
if
don't
you're
know,
not
sir.
certified to use it, and I'm not saying because Jeff, to be clear, Jeff used to be a paramedic, I don't know if he still holds his credentials or whatever, but, you know, he has that ability, but if we have 2 that could be utilized somewhere that could be used quicker, with somebody that's responding, I think they need to be
Well-
maybe in a better place, but.
I think it should probably go to another, first responder, fire department, if that's,
But they're nice to use, and they're a Cadillac if you've ever done CPR on somebody,
if we're stuck paying for
it's
it.
great.
They also increase the chances of getting ROSC, which is a pulse bag with somebody that's been down. It's one of the things that Air Methods, whenever they were doing a class down in Kentucky, we had a couple of the nurses from the ER went down and they came back and told us that they were talking about SCIC and EMS and this resuscitation rate of getting a pulse bag in a patient that was down was higher than anybody else in Southern Indiana.
Well, I've witnessed it, I don't wanna ever be on the,
No.
I don't wanna ever look up and see one there, but, you know, but
They're a lifesaver, especially if you're
They
coming
are.
from Lexington. Not only to save you from doing compressions, but it's safer for you now. You can sit down versus having to stand up and actually compress.
well, if you've ever done compressions on the back of an ambulance, going down the road, it's not easy, so.
Just
And
don't
you're-
let Brad Deaton
sometimes you're
drive
not
you.
getting sometimes you're not getting good, compressions, and
Yeah.
this thing is automatic, so.
Another question, 16 of those at 13,000 apiece, that's only 208,000.
There's AEDs too.
That's where the 642.
There's more than, no, there's more than that too.
Okay,
So
so
there's-
that's a big difference.
No, Marcel, there's more than that. So there's, you have the Lucas devices, you have the AEDs, you have the stretchers. That is the power loads on the trucks. Those are almost 80,000 apiece.
How many
But-
of those?
Every truck has it now.
So those have already been installed.
Yes, I'm pretty sure those are what we've already paid onto, but again, we don't have an invoice to be able to see
Is
that.
that an invoice or a statement?
It should be an invoice.
What
'Cause-
you got in the mail, was that a statement?
No, it was a LISO. Yeah, it was just a LISO saying this is what products they're wanting on this lease.
Can you not pull your claims? Because your claim should have a copy of an invoice. I mean, Mandy's
See,
pretty
they
strict about
never
making
invoiced
sure.
us.
Yeah.
That's the.
They-
Mandy's pretty strict about making sure you have an invoice number on your claim, not a statement.
I don't
or-
think
I
that,
know we
I don't
paid
think the
$240.
salesperson there ever wrote invoice is the problem.
But Tammy's office will not let you process a claim and pay something if.
And we, and
So-
I've got a
There's
list,
a claim cover sheet, she
They-
won't do that.
that's true.
Right,
And
but
then
the
we-
only thing
I know
is,
we paid 248,000
Yeah,
at
so-
one point in time, because that was for a lot of the, whatever the life packs are, I don't know what life packs are.
that's our monitors.
I just know like when I,
Yes. Yes,
I've
you are
taken the
correct.
statement to Mandy with a
Yeah.
claim, she said, this is not an invoice, this is a statement, I need an invoice with an actual invoice number.
Yes, because we don't do, that's why I was yeah.
So
Yeah,
you used to be
so
able to pull that copy.
Here is what CARES we just got yesterday from Teresa, because we were trying to
Look
verify.
at the devices in here, I'm gonna need one.
And this here, all it does is it shows payments that were being made, and there's a bunch of them to Striker, but it doesn't say what they were for.
You can physically,
And I've
like,
got the-
Teresa
Do
and
you?
Tammy
Okay.
can
'Cause
physically
we
go
were-
in a box and.
That's what
pull
we were
that
trying to
out.
get done yesterday. I know yesterday was chaotic, you all had meetings.
I have a big thick on my desk because I had sifted down through because I had a public records request on
Yeah,
this
I think-
particular invoice.
But that
And
entire-
I was
I'm gonna
clarifying,
I'm gonna
the
clarify something right
statement
now.
is a
So
list
you-
of your purchases through a certain time period, and invoices for a particular purchase that's listed on the statement. I was trying to find out if 648,000 was a statement balance that you had purchased versus invoices we may have paid down through this
Yeah.
statement, rather than an actual
So-
one billing.
So
That's what
$80,000
mine is.
a piece for those stretcher,
Those power loads.
and there's 4 of them probably, aren't there? So it's-
No, there's 5, because I contacted, yeah. I contacted, Crossroads, where the new
We
ambulance
got
is
4
being,
ambulances and we got 5 stretchers.
no, so our 5th ambulance was being built up at
yeah,
Crossroads.
that's the one
We
still
tried
in the
to-
shop.
We tried afterwards, we tried to see if we can cancel that.
It's our ambulance, so they're not gonna cancel that
Yeah,
one.
the
We're
commissioner
just-
signed a contract
We're
for it,
switching a
so,
box off of
yeah.
one on, putting on another chassis, so that's a
Yeah.
done deal, but.
well, so they have one of those power loads up there to be installed already on it. And so, to,
That's my
Might
water
mistake.
ticket tonight, I think we might need
And
one.
then we got, how many drivers?
how many drivers?
Don't go there.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That'll open another can of
What-
worms.
about
What
30
do we
people
got that we
just,
don't need? Because I think we're gonna have a yard sale.
yeah, so, I'll tell you, we have some McGraths, which are intubation things. I've never seen one of our people use them, and they bought 8 of those. Those are pretty pricey as well. We already had a
Just want the camera on it?
yeah, but we already had something that had a camera on it, but this was new, so we got it. So we still have our King Vision, so right now.
I guess my question is, and I'm gonna go back to what Michelle and Tammy are both talking about, is, did we order this stuff? Is there an order request to these companies to send this? Or did, off of a grant that was sent to the commissioners and approved to go apply for a grant to get the money to pay for all this stuff, was there a request for this stuff to be sent to us prior to the grant being approved or denied?
I cannot answer that. I was not involved in
Who's
that
the,
deal.
who, is it the same salesman for all of it?
Every bit of it. It's the same guy.
So,
They
so the
always
same,
met together.
the same salesman with Stryker is the one that has bought all the devices that put the stretcher in the back of the ambulance and all
Power
everything.
loads, the
So
McGraths,
he's
Lucas
done it all,
device,
so,
AEDs.
so I guess that's the person we need to find out. What'd you sell us and who approved for you to send it to us in the first place? But again, we've used a lot of it. A lot of it's already the $80,000 stretcher, automatic stretcher, and they're great. I'll tell you, my back don't hurt. But the point of it is that we've not paid for them, but we're using them.
We may have paid for the power loads.
Well, you said there was 200
We,
and some
we've
thousand
Yeah.
got
dollars.
some invoicing in there that we could pick through to see, and again, that was my thought, was this an overall statement of your purchases you've made with us, or was it an actual single invoice?
It sounds to me like we got one salesman, and I'm not going to beat the salesman up because he may have done exactly what he was told to do.
Right.
But I want him to explain,
Yeah.
here's what happened and
How do
here.
we get equipment that we haven't
We-
signed for? That's
we-
what I want.
Well, and like, I'm
Usually
gonna
you
reiterate,
PO.
yes,
Yeah.
and so therefore, I'm gonna go back to Mike's point, and Michelle, I'll start with her, because we don't pay from a statement, she is
Right.
100% correct. We pay by individual invoices that should be listed on a statement, and we use that statement to balance how we're our payment history, okay? So that, I'm jumping back to Mike, was this sent because there was a quote made while we were estimating for a grant application, and then this was somehow, I don't, that's usually not what happens, we usually don't get items sent
I just
based
know
on
your
a
office
quote.
is very,
Right, absolutely.
very diligent on it. They will not pay a PO, maybe will not pay a quote, and maybe
No.
will not pay a statement. It's an invoice
And
number.
on this lease program, the power loads
Do you?
and the monitors are not on that. So that's what I think we actually paid
Pay
for
for 'em.
out of CARES or redevelopment. I think that's what we've actually paid for, because on this lease, it has, and in the email, he said, we need to go ahead and lock this in. If not, then the rates may change. But there was never anything given back to him that was signed. All it was a form that they had made up for the commissioners for the LISO program through Stryker. But on that, there's no power
That was a
loads.
secondary plan.
Yeah, well, but there's no power loads or our monitors that we have to have. There's none of those on there.
So that might be that some of those have already been paid for.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but
Well,
I don't have those. When I go through his email, I
Well,
can find those.
what really bothers me is that you bypassed the salesperson and went to the company. The company's telling you that we don't have an account with them and we don't have that equipment.
Yep, that's what,
So you could also try to get the check number that Mandy sent Stryker and have the company do a reverse payment lookup on that. So like, sometimes what happens is our Verizon check gets put towards EMS or whatever, or WEX or whoever. You can send them the check number, they can go, they should be able to pull up in their system, because everything's automated now, that check number, and then obviously they applied that payment to something, some
yeah,
account,
yeah.
you know, that could be an option too.
Alright, well, I think we need to,
We can keep digging in this. I've
Okay.
got actually I think I've got a copy of the Stryker invoice that was a significant whenever I was asked to try to find the Stryker invoice that had the Lucas devices on it. Of course, I'm not,
I
in
should
the
have brought
lingo
that,
world,
yeah.
so life packs, and I'm like, oh, there's life packs, but it was 248,000. So of that 600 and some thousand, that 248 might be off of that. I would only hope, but I don't know.
those life packs are pretty pricey too, so
They're
that's a
about
problem.
25 a piece,
That's probably.
which is typical, but
Oh, I'm not saying
Hey.
anything's, I'm not
Well,
saying
the-
anything's, the price is screwed up, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that you can't buy something without
right.
already having the money in place, and
So
that's
the life
the problem
packs,
I'm
I
having.
know that they did go before council to get money before we knew about the CARES and all that to spend for the life packs. The reason being at the end of the year was
They run
FDA
them
wasn't gonna back them
decertified.
anymore. And so I do know that
Yeah.
that was supposed to.
That was the thing
That
that
was
was gonna
probably the big
expire
one.
and be out of technology date.
Yeah,
So-
Okay.
well, they're not certified after the end of the year, so.
Yeah,
Do you have any idea how much money we have
how much money we have for
now?
now, so we have $128,000 cash on hand. That's outside of CARES money that we have left, and outside of redevelopment money we have left. And
That's-
we get deposits weekly. That's just from billing off of our runs. Our last one we got sent for was last week. We got $104,000, which was $30,000 more than what we were expecting.
So the, speaking
Yeah, which
with,
is good.
speaking
Which is good.
with, speaking with that though, we're, take the striker out of the equation here. The remount,
So.
$110,000, correct?
So we've paid some on that prior. We put like a 41,000 is what we paid to them. And then we owe them still 104,000. We have enough in CARES money to completely pay for that.
Okay, so
And
that would get our truck back here.
It will not be painted or anything. We would still have to pay for that, which is, we still had a little bit left in redevelopment, when we talked to Tracy yesterday, we realized that we actually got more out of CARES Act than what we had in our budget over at EMS. So we only thought we got 700,000. We ended up having 15,000 more that we didn't have accounted for.
Because it was a little over 7.
And again, I
So-
trust you, but I'm gonna ask this anyway.
Right
When
here.
you say we have the money in our CARES Act, that means we have
Yeah.
Yep,
the money
here's that if you
in
need
our
it.
CARES Act.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
When he says that, he means he's reconciled their ledger at EMS with our ledger
Ledger.
at
And
the
I-
auditor's office, because we're the ones that finally process the claims. They kind of like do a preliminary workup of their budget.
Yeah.
We process the claims and then we compare what we said we processed with what they said they processed, and we've got to
Well,
reconcile.
I wanna make sure we're not doing the same thing
Well,
that
that's-
happened last time, no.
Oh, absolutely.
Kept on a grant that I don't
Well,
have.
that's where I'm asking about so technically, we have enough money to pay for the remount.
We do.
When's the remount supposed to be done?
Delivered this month. So by the end of the month, it's supposed to be here.
So right now, the only outstanding of any new purchases or anything else is through Stryker.
No, sir. So I just found another one, which is, it's nowhere near Stryker. It's, there's these merit bags. They bought one for Dr. Crosdale and one for Shannon's vehicle. Comes from D&D Medical, and we have an outstanding balance of like $1,000 that was never paid to them. And so he just sent me the invoice for that, which is, we have money in the budget to be able to pay for it, but it's still, that's what we know of right now that is outstanding. And had the guy never came down and met with me, he would have never even known it wasn't paid for either.
Alright, so outside of that,
Nothing to my knowledge at this point.
so nobody's knocked on the door or
No,
sent
sir.
you anything in the mail that says we owe them more money?
No, sir.
What I can see as far as worst case scenario goes at this point is that what can be returned and should be
That's-
returned needs to be returned.
Absolutely.
Then we look at potentially a financing program. If we
Yeah.
cannot come up with the money through some other means, through council appropriation or whatnot, then we just budget for the next 2 or 3 years, the payment out of the EMS budget to take the equipment that we legitimately want to purchase, and that's the best way to rectify this situation.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Well, we need to know what,
We need to see after we've taken everything back that we can take back, what we actually owe, and can look at it, because my blood pressure's
Oh, yeah.
through the roof.
oh, I guarantee it.
It's a good thing mine typically runs low.
It
Because
just
then when it
makes me
becomes
madder and
low,
madder every time we reach out to them.
There's stress.
And they won't give us like,
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, and I don't know their policies. I mean, a lot of times when you're talking about medical equipment, once it leaves their dock, you own it. So, and they may not take it back. So,
the only thing that I think might save us is, one, we didn't sign a contract, and two, headquarters doesn't even have that,
Well,
we
but-
have that equipment.
but we don't know what the salesman has in his possession. So he may have walked in there and said, here, sign this, and he's got a document that he's gonna produce that has somebody's signature on it. Because if I'm a salesman, I'm probably not gonna give you $700,000 worth of equipment on just your word. So, and just because it's sitting in our facility, you know,
So can I ask a
doesn't mean,
question?
what's
Because I
that?
don't know the answer to it. So if it's not signed by the commissioners and somebody else signed a contract,
I don't know that. answer.
Authority to bind, there's agency principles that would apply for,
We're on the hook. Long story short.
no, I mean, the person selling the equipment would have to have some type of expectation that the person who signed
Yeah,
the
he's-
document actually has actual authority
He's doing a good
or
faith.
implied authority.
that's what,
Now that, you're getting way down deep into,
yeah,
that's a litigation issue,
Yeah.
basically. I mean,
You're right. I mean, just like any department head has that authority to buy or purchase equipment, whether it's office supplies or anything else.
And whether the person's belief in that implied authority or actual authority was reasonable. I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
the actual languages off the top of my head, but.
I just,
apologize, it's not good news.
oh, it's
There are ways
not
to
your
bind a
fault.
corporation without the principal sign.
But the issue here is, like Randy said, I think we need to know what's been paid for, what still is outstanding, what we can send back, and what the bottom balance is that we will have to negotiate or, you know, do it on terms, or if, you know, somebody hits the lottery tonight, then.
They don't need it.
That's what we were trying to do with Teresa and them, but I know they
Well,
were swamped yesterday.
I know that, speaking with some council members and people that were on the advisory board, they went out and started crunching numbers too, and I think they're probably, you know, hard jump to beat or two as well, so. All right, if you can work with Tammy and Teresa and find out find out where we're at and get back with us as far as, what we're gonna do there, so. while we're talking about EMS, I'm gonna bring up, a conversation I had with Dr. Crosdale. And I think there was well, I'll just say that I think there was a rumor out there that he was going to resign as the, medical director for EMS. I had a long conversation with him. Did you get an email from him?
I did not get an email.
Did you get an email, Tammy?
No.
Oh, actually I did. Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
He sent an email with a letter.
Actually, I think
I
I
may
did
have
get that.
forwarded-
I
yeah,
think I
either
did-
that or I
think you
forwarded it
that
to
to me,
Now,
but that's not what we
He's-
have here.
I'm not saying he rescinded his resignation or whatever, but he's contemplating it still. And I'm gonna be honest here, cause I'm kinda embarrassed as a county official, and I know I've only been here, 4+ years, but, after a long conversation with him the other day, I found out that, the reason how he became the medical director for EMS was that when he was employed by Scott County Memorial Hospital, which was owned by the county, part of his job description that he was going to be the EMA director or EMS director, medical director as well. The county hospital paid him part of his job description to be that. We've since sold the hospital, hence he's not been paid in the whole time since we paid, or since we
We sold that.
sold the hospital, he's been doing it for free.
The only thing that we paid was either his DEA numbers or his medical license, which is only every couple of years, and it's not very much money at all.
So,
Less than $1,000.
so, I'm kinda embarrassed as a county, identity that this guy was kinda doing this for free, and I told him that too. So anyway, I'm going to, and he's kind of presented a proposal to me, and I'll bring it to the next meeting, cause I wanted to get it on the agenda, but I'm going to bring it to the next meeting, and then if we can work something out, whether it's, a wage, or whether it's a salary, or insurance, or something that maybe we can negotiate with him, to keep him on as a medical director. I know that would have to go to the board. I know that probably this being, halfway through the year, I know the budgets are working on right now, might be something that we can throw into EMS's budget, showing, and the big, cause I'm on the insurance board, I was thinking about the insurance part of it. We talked about not doing contractual, people to be able to draw from our insurance, but he would not be considered a county employer. I mean, I don't know how we do Dr.
We do.
Rogers, I mean,
We have him on our salary ordinance, and we actually pay him through payroll. So we could literally set up a monthly distribution, a semi-annual distribution. Dr. Rogers is on semi-annual distribution through payroll.
so something like that could work.
Yes.
I know Dr. Cook gets up, but how much do we pay Dr. Rogers?
He's paid $8,000 annually.
So, does he, I guess it's public knowledge, I mean, does he use our insurance? So, but if we do it this way, we would have to kind of change our policy of saying that we would single this out as contractual and be able to pay or let him buy insurance or something, or?
If you create a job description for an EMS medical director services position and classify it as a full-time position, okay? I'm again not knowing how many hours it will and won't take, but anyway, you classify it with full-time benefits, a special occupation, and then it's classified as full-time, because council members
That wouldn't be the contractual
get
thing.
insurance and they're elected, so,
Yeah.
but their status is full-time, okay? So if you make the status of that position full-time, and you can offer benefits if it's a full-time status
Okay.
position.
All right.
So then it could be handled through payroll, deductions on the employees, we don't have to collect a special check and quietus it in, that means receipt, if you're not speaking auditor speak. But anyway, we would receipt his payment, and it's just extra, it's honestly, I would, as an auditor, I think prefer it be a salary ordinance and just directly taken from a budgeted,
I would-
professional services,
I would rather that
personal
happen like
services
that.
out of EMS budget, if that was the way you guys so moved. So, and then also if there's an insurance component to this, then everything could be ran right through payroll and it would be easy peasy as far as that goes.
Well, like I said, I don't, you know, I know he sent a proposal, and it was just that, a proposal. I would like to negotiate that somewhat, I mean.
And there's a
And
component.
I think there's, some of that negotiation is that, if we would give the opportunity for him to have medical benefits, then he would need to know what that benefit from the county is. And I think you told me once that it was like $28,000.
It can be, yes, but I mean, you get deferred comp, it depends on if you take the family plan or not, and, another thing too,
So I mean, I don't think he, and I'm not saying he doesn't, but what I'm saying is that the proposal he sent was like the salary plus benefits plus this, and I was like, well, he knew what that benefit package was, it may skew the other number somewhat, so.
Somewhat, and then another thing too, I wanna remind you that he is also under MOU with 911 as their medical review officer as well. So see, there could be a job description component, he does not get paid for that as far as I know, if it is, it's very nominal. So there could be something that he could be the Scott County Medical Services Director, and it be a 911 component and an EMS component.
The other part of this, if we're using his license, this might be a legal question, if we're using his license for EMS, is the malpractice insurance that we pay through EMS cover him?
I
Might be an
don't know the
insurance.
specific, I mean, it would depend on the facts, I think, associated with the type
The
of claim
language of
that
the
was
policy.
made.
Because his license are what we're using for EMS to even
I think
operate.
I think certainly some of his activities would, I mean, but there's.
I guess that was part of the other
Yeah.
question, the
Yeah.
negotiation was that he was wanting us to make sure he was covered on insurance as far as malpractice.
For things associated with
With
his
his-
work
That's
here.
correct.
Here.
I would think that that would be the case, but.
I
would
don't
think
think
so.
that if he worked the ER.
No, I'm talking
Yeah.
about his
Just wanna make sure
license.
we, yeah.
If you guys mess up, it's going to him, he's drug
Right,
into it
absolutely.
too. Or potentially he could be drug into it because it's his license.
Right.
I wanna make sure that he's covered,
Yes, sir.
his license are covered under our insurance policy for EMS.
And I think with our EMS
That-
service, our insurance probably has that.
Yeah, that would have to do with the
Incorporated.
insurance contract, yeah.
Yeah, and the language.
I think any claim, including a claim against the EMS director would be covered. That would be less about his license and more about,
The EMS
the-
operation.
yeah.
Alright,
Yeah, so again, I think it might be that we could create a job description and
well,
incorporate some things.
I'm gonna bring the proposal next meeting and put it on the agenda. I also want to make sure that it goes to the council, because the council's gonna have to yay, nay. I don't know if the situation would be that he would wait till, or if he would even consider waiting till the end of the year and start on a new budget cycle.
Yeah,
Or
that's
if
what we
he'd
do.
say, hey, I'll just wait till the end of the year and then I'll start January 1. Or if we're gonna have to jump to a hoop and find money or whatever to.
If he does wait till the end of the year, would we be able to amend the budget by then? Cause we'd go over it next week.
Well, it'd have to go to council and council had to approve it, but they would maybe already have it in their back of their mind that this is gonna happen.
Okay, I can say it to him next week when we come in, just to, when we
I'm
talk about
going to come
budget.
see Santa, I'll call it,
Yeah.
that's, come see Santa, and
Oh,
ask
that's
for, and
not-
tell, yeah, and describe that thing, there may be some things
Okay.
by October that you'll be discussing in more detail depending on the situation the commissioners negotiate with Dr. Cosdale. So, the budget will actually be adopted in October. Again, August is just saying, hey, look, this is probably what I'm gonna change on you or save you or whatever. And then October, it's whenever it all pans out. So we've got a little bit of time, they got a little bit of time to talk to him. and then we can get prepared, you know, for other benefits and whatnot.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Tom.
All right, electronic, oh, this is the attorney. Electronic attendance ordinance 2021-015, second reading. And I asked this of our attorney prior to this meeting, if we could go ahead and pass it on second, and I don't know if we need a third reading, but if we could, since there's not any opposition to it, that we can pass it on through and finalize it tonight, so.
I mean, so this is, the answer to the question would be that the statute, would only allow passage of an ordinance introduced at one meeting and not read at a second meeting if there was unanimous consent from the members present at the meeting. I don't know if you have, so, and there's a requirement of 2 readings. Basically, I think that statute just has 2 readings in one meeting, at the same meeting it's introduced. I don't know if there's a local requirement that ordinances have 3 readings, because you can, okay.
No, we're gonna
So-
run this usually.
I would think that it would be 2 readings, and that you could, there's already been 1 reading and a public hearing at which nobody made a comment. There were some changes in the first reading, so I wanna make sure that the copy that gets read and signed reflects those changes. And Tammy, I sent you an email with the full change.
So is
copy.
this the change?
That was this was the copy I had from the prior meeting. I just took the one out of the meeting before I made a copy.
So is this,
I don't know, Zach,
You
is
can
this the
look.
one? He knows where the little changes are at.
No.
You repeated the 155, didn't you? That's coming
did.
back to me now.
So you'd take off.
We strike the 1.5.
Yeah, you take off the second 1.5 on each of those, and yep,
Okay,
and then
are you saying,
right here. Strike here and here. He's duplicated 1.5 twice.
so here at the code, you're gonna,
Get rid of that 1.5. Get rid of. Oh no, just the 1.5.
okay, here.
The second one. Yep. And that second one. I've got a
Okay,
copy here. If you want.
all right, I'm gonna just read it and we'll go.
And then there is another change that is. That commissioners would be the governing body.
What page is that on?
Third,
Oh, section 5,
section 5,
Yes,
yes.
section 5.
and that means
And I'm
governing body.
Yep.
And the reason you're doing this is because you're making applicable to a broad scope of boards, correct?
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and read this, and this will be the second reading, and hopefully the third reading as well. But ordinance number 2021-015, before the County Commissioners of Scott County, State of Indiana, the ordinance adopting an electronic meeting policy for Scott County Commissioners. Whereas the Indiana General Assembly adopted HEA 1437 in the 2021 regular session, which amended Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-15, ET sequence the Act, to prescribe new requirements by which members of the governing body or political subdivision may participate in a meeting by means of electronic communication. Whereas the purpose of and the intent of this ordinance is to adopt a policy pursuant to Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-1.5 ET sequence, establishing the procedures by which members of the Scott County Commissioners may participate in a meeting by means of electronic communications. Whereas a member of the governing body may participate by any means of communication that allows all participating members of the governing body to simultaneously communicate with each other, and 2, except for a meeting that is executive session, allow the public to simultaneously attend and observe the meeting. And whereas the act requires the governing body to adopt a written policy establishing procedures that apply to the members' participation in a meeting by electronic means of communications, and may adopt procedures that are more restricted than procedures established by Indiana Code 5-14-1.5 14-1.5-3.5. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, State of Indiana as follows. As permitted by the Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-3.5, the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana adopts the following. Electronic meeting policy. The Board of the Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana authorizes participation in all meetings by electronic means on the following terms. Section 1, the provisions of the Act include definition applied to this ordinance. B, this ordinance shall be known as electronic meetings policy of the Scott County Commissioners applied to the Board of Commissioners of Scott County and any committee appointed directly by the Commissioners. C, in addition, and until each governing body in Scott County adopts its own policies, the Commissioners exercise their executive and legislative powers to declare that the meeting policies are now adopting shall apply to each and every governing body of Scott County. The Commissioners encourage each governing body to adopt the policies that mirror these and that conform to the Indiana law as at their next meeting or their earliest convenience. Section 2, A. Subject to Sections 3 and 5, any member may participate in a meeting by any electronic means of communications that 1. Allows all participating members of the governing body to simultaneously communicate with each other, and 2. Other than meeting that is an executive session, allows the public to simultaneously attend and observe the meeting. B, a member of those participating or who participates may by electronic means of communication 1 shall be considered present for the purpose of establishing a quorum and may participate in final actions only the members can be seen and heard. C, all votes taken during the meeting at least one member participates in electronic means of communication must be taken by roll call vote. Section 3, A, at least 50% of the members must be physically present at a meeting at which a member will participate by means of electronic communications. Not more than 50% of the members may participate by electronic means of communication at the same meeting. B, a member may not attend more than 50% of the governing body's meetings in a calendar year remotely by means of electronic communication unless such remote participation is due to 1, military service, 2, illness or other medical conditions, 3, death of a relative, or 4, an emergency involving actual or threatened injury to persons or property. C, a member may attend 2 consecutive meetings, a set of meetings by electronic communications. A member must attend in person at least 1 meeting between sets of meetings that member attends by electronic communication unless the member's absence is due to 1, military service, 2, illness or other medical conditions, 3, death of a relative, or 4, an emergency involving actual or threatened injury to persons or property. Section 4, the minutes of the or memorial of a meeting at which any member participates by electronic means of communication must 1, identify each member who A, was physically present at the meeting, B, participated in the meeting by electronic means of communication, and C, was absent, and number 2, identify the electronic means of communications by which A, members participated in the meeting, and B, members of the public attended and observed the meeting if the meeting was not an executive session. Section 5, no member of the governing body may participate by means of electronic communications in the meeting at which governing body take final action. 1, adopt a budget. 2, make a reduction in personnel. 3, initiate a referendum. 4, impose or increase a fee. 5, impose or increase a penalty. 6, exercise any of the county powers of eminent domain. Or 7, establish, impose, raise, and renew a tax. Section 6, A, if an emergency is declared, 1, the governor under Indiana Code 10-14-3-12 or the commissioners under Indiana Code 10-14-3-29, members are not required to physically present for a meeting until the emergency is terminated. B, members may provide or participate in a meeting by any means of communication provided that 1, at least a quorum of members participating in the meeting by means of electronic communication or in person. 2, the public may simultaneously attend and observe the meeting unless the meeting is in executive session. And 3, the minutes or memorandum of the meetings must comply with section 4 of this resolution. C, all votes taken during a meeting at least one member participates by electronic means of communication must be taken by roll call vote. Section 7, except in the case of the meeting called to deal with an emergency pursuant to Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-5, D, a member who plans to attend a meeting by electronic means of communication shall notify the presiding officer within 48 hours of the meeting time so that arrangements may be made for the members' participation by electronic communication. Section 8, the staff members may participate electronically in all meetings, including those listed in Section 5, which are meeting members of the governing body must attend in person, provided there is no actual need for a staff member to be physically present at a regular meeting or at a particular meeting. Such need shall be determined at the sole discretion of the presiding officer of the governing body, unless a majority of the governing body vote to require a staff member to attend at a particular meeting. Section 9, this ordinance shall be effective from and after its passage, approval, and recorded as provided by the law. And then it has a place for a date and the Board of Commissioners for whether they passed it or did not pass it. So,
And for those younger in the crowd that has never seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, you just seen the filibuster scene.
And I'm sorry, Zach, and I missed most of it.
Anyway,
That's not even half of the filibuster. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, for anybody that's watching, just to clarify what this is, if we got anything out of COVID, it's that there are ways and means to be present at meetings and to participate in a meeting that in the past was not recognized as official. So what we're trying to do here, and this doesn't just cover commissioners, this here covers any board within Scott County. The council, the commissioners, drainage board, or any board that we would have, this would cover them to be a legal binding vote and legal binding participation in a meeting. With this, I've contacted Andrew Campbell through our IT guy, and he's getting a price list together to buy this room a large screen television with a computer that will be attached to it to be able to add stuff to it and for everybody. And hopefully in the future, if we're not using it for a commissioner or a council person to participate in a meeting, we could put documents on there as well to be able for the public to be able to see what we're actually reading and see what.
And I just want to clarify that before, and this is for members of boards in Scott County, before you decide at this meeting I want to participate via Zoom, there's got to be some type of communication about who's going to do it at what meeting, because there are limitations, and you need to know what's on the agenda for that meeting, because there are certain items that if placed on an agenda will basically void your ability for that meeting to participate via electronic means where you can be seen or heard. So
For council, it would be a budget adoption.
that would be one, yeah.
Well,
So I just want to be, I want
to clarify
to
that then.
caution.
Yeah, to clarify that, then we would have to put a deadline on your agenda unless it is something that doesn't fall within the criteria that we would not be able to vote.
That is a totally unintended consequence. I
Yes.
didn't think about that.
Yeah,
'Cause-
because you guys would say, I want to, because you have to give me 48-hour notice to say I want to attend via remote.
And that would be
And
Friday.
that's when we would have to say, okay, at this point in time, yep, this is allowed based on the agenda items. And then that would be no more allowed on or off, because that would be at the point in time you kind
Unless
of,
the
unless it
change-
meets the criteria.
Yeah, unless the changed item would change the ability to participate.
Yeah,
So therefore, nothing that was non-participatory
yeah,
would be allowed.
those items in section 5 would be adopt a budget, make a reduction in personnel, initiate a referendum, impose or increase a fee, impose or increase a penalty, exercise any of the county's powers of eminent domain, or establish, impose, or raise a new tax. So if that thing jumped on an agenda, you know, on a Tuesday afternoon, then that person would have to show up in person or not be able to vote or participate.
It would be hard for me to think of a time in which something of that nature would jump on a
Yeah.
budget.
At the last
within
minute, yeah.
48 hours. Those are types of issues that would be.
Yeah, I think
But-
they're still
and
safe.
That's because, I mean, those are the issues where I think I'm gonna read into the statute here, which I guess, you know, that you're dealing with county money or county personnel or issues where the public, they're deemed so vital that the public should be allowed to participate with county commissioners or that governing body being physically present and making a decision in the same physical space.
And no one should sit in the safety of their home and make a decision that they're not publicly facing their constituents.
Oh, yeah, and that's exactly what I thought, is, you know, if someone's going to, you know, there's a hot topic, I guess, and somebody wants to say, well, I think I'll be on this. I won't be.
That's not the purpose.
That's not the purpose.
That's not the purpose, you're exactly right, you know, man up and come in. So,
Did it say anything about the auditor sitting at home
Nah,
and
it did.
attended by Zoom?
it did say
Is
staff,
that, oh, it did, okay, well, I'm kind of.
but you weren't in here to know that that's red in there,
I
so.
have a staph infection.
Anyway, I'll entertain a motion to accept this on the second reading.
Second.
I'm gonna say this, Randy, makes a motion to accept this on the second reading, and I'll make that unanimous. And at this time, can I make a motion to accept this on the third and last reading?
Do we,
Or do we even need a
I don't
third
think
reading?
that there is a requirement for third reading.
Okay.
The state statute requires 2 readings.
Is one of these the official,
I have them.
since I lined out another part of this?
Will you just sign both of them, and there's 2 sections, sign on the A side since you voted, yes, because you'll see your name twice. One side's the yes and one side's the no. So you're gonna, yeah,
I'm
you're
just
gonna
here,
sign on
right?
that one, yes.
Did you say there's 2 sections?
You sign
Well,
right there.
Yeah, yay and nay, but you.
You are yay.
Oh.
Yay. All right, and then we'll switch off.
Does that immediately go into effect?
After the ordinance it says
You want
in
me here,
section
No, that's a no.
9,
That's what I thought.
after recorded.
Here, I want
But
you
it
here.
don't say nay.
I want you, it's just because it's
Here,
not.
protect.
Yeah, it's, after its passage and adoption, actually, I think.
Randy. And Randy's on here.
I gotta sign one of those.
That one there.
After this.
Right there.
You wanna read it, Igor?
Nope. I'll play back that tape. I was getting a little cotton mouth.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so that will become effective, as soon as it can be recorded as a ordinance, is that correct?
A public document, that, I have to record this, Zach?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, it also has attorney comments here. Do you have any comments, sir?
Well, we did the precincting, so I don't think that I have any other additional comments.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to pay the payment consideration for the monthly claims for July 2021. Randy makes a motion.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question. All right, and this is.
This
to
payroll.
To our attorney. So, does other counties have a written agreement with any attorneys as far as representing, what we're trying to say, Mike?
You're talking about public defenders?
Public, thank you.
Like the county has.
Can we contract a attorney for public defenders? Can we send out contracts to get?
I think
We
that
have
you
them.
have a public defender,
Budget.
board with,
Yeah. And there's individual contracts with attorneys that we
Yeah.
keep in our office.
That they charge, does it say how much they charge us? Or
What it is they tell
a-
you what type of cases they will take,
so there's, I mean.
and then
I'm gonna
you
jump
pay them
into it.
accordingly.
Well, I'm what, okay. Let
Where are you
me,
trying to go at?
okay, let me get where I'm trying to go. Okay, we paid upwards of $35,000 for attorney fees, representing, public defenders. So over a year's
Per
time,
attorney or,
For one case or for?
that was the combined.
Okay.
All right, so, over a year's term, that's upwards of $400,000. I mean, we're almost $500,000 for representing, and I realize that we have to pay,
And we have a grant as well.
so there, yeah, there's.
Through the
paying that?
state, that's paying part of that, 40% of that.
Depending on the type of case, I believe there's like either a 40 or a 50% reimbursement, so long as you're within as long as you are in good standing and meeting all the requirements under the parity statutes for public defenders versus prosecutors. I believe that the Indiana Public Defender Council reimburses counties up to 40 to 50% depending on the type of case. And there are other expenses, which is why I think at the last meeting, Josh Digdon mentioned types of reimbursements for expenses for the office that also get reimbursed. So I'm not sure, and I don't know whether that's like an after reimbursement cost.
We have to claim it, which means
so-
we turn in these payments, and then they reimburse us based on what we've spent. So if it's a 40% of 100,000, we're gonna get 40,000 back against what we've paid these attorneys.
And just so you're aware, like if there are requirements for parity, and if the public defender, if you mess with that at all, and that messes with the parity for the prosecutors, the Indiana Public Defender Council will stop reimbursing you, so you miss out on a substantial amount on the back end.
Of reimbursements.
okay,
And this program is working now. Years ago, there was a lot of problem with this, but they have revamped it, and we started participating again, and we've had success.
Well, I do know
Call
one
it
thing.
Success, we've had success.
I will
well,
say,
thanks for explaining it.
to answer your first question, there are a number of different ways that counties form public defenders' offices. There are full-time public defenders in some counties. There are part-time or full-time contract employee, like attorneys who also have private practices but operate on contract with the county, either
Which is
in full-time or
how we
part-time
do.
capacity.
Yes.
And then there are, I believe, counties that are not within the ambit of the Indiana Public Defender Council requirements, but they still usually operate under contract. And I may be totally wrong here, but I think that in those cases, the local judges or board of judges, I think, retains or manages the public defender contracts. I may be wrong on that part, but there are different ways that they're set up depending on the county's preference.
But our public defenders do not get any other county benefits.
Yeah.
They just basically work for the money that you see based on the cases that they're willing to defend.
That actually came up in the insurance
Yeah.
board. Some of them were wanting to try to get on the county's
County
insurance, and we didn't approve it. That's why I was asking about, if this thing with Dr. Crosdale gets any kind of legwork is that gonna be a problem? Cause we do not insure contractual people.
And some public defender, like, in terms of what work they can take, certain attorneys, depending on experience, usually I think it's done by experience for cases that have gone all the way to trial, like, you have to have so much experience to try a felony case. You have to have tried, I think it's up to it, like, A misdemeanors, B misdemeanors, C misdemeanors, and level 6 felonies are treated with one section of attorneys. You can try up to like a level 3 for other types of attorneys with
So
greater
that's
trial
why
experience. Then you get up to like level 1, then there's
So you're
eligible
seeing a different
qualified
level
and
of
death penalty
pay.
qualified.
I was seeing
Because
certain lawyers charging so much.
Some don't mark
yeah, certain
murder
lawyers
trials on their
charge
contract,
less,
they
yeah.
won't
Yeah,
take a murder
because
case
they're maybe
They're years
prohibited
of
by statute
experience.
from
to
doing
I
even
guess.
work on that.
as a public defender. Now, it's different for private counsel, but as a public defender, there are requirements for the types of cases that you're even eligible for.
And the push at the state level was to make sure that the person charged had timely, appropriate, and well-managed representation. And that was the revamping of the the public defender board at the state level, and to offer these grant incentives to participate with this, is to better move their clients through the system and to give them more fair representation.
I think is there a Scott County Public Defender Board though?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
thought there was.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
Is that good?
yeah, yeah.
Clear as mud?
No, I understand it. It's just, you know, when you start looking at $500,000,
Oh, yeah.
it deserved me to ask.
Oh, I
Make
guarantee
sure
it.
you
need
be
to-
an attorney.
As soon, but the only the caveat there is like if you start looking at the funds for a public defender, you would have to also start looking at
Prosecutor.
the prosecutor funds for like,
Yeah.
because if you dip on one or the other, you would risk losing out on reimbursement eligibility.
All right, well, I would go back and entertain a motion to accept the,
I'm sorry.
oh, you're
Yeah.
fine.
That's my understanding.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. And, I guess with John here, I'll make that'll be unanimous, so. That's actually the claims. And I do like that she sends those in advance.
Statutorily 5 days ahead of your meeting.
All right, also entertain a motion for ratifying the payroll for July the 30th.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Randy makes a motion, I'll second that and make it unanimous, so. Last thing here is consideration of the July 7th, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion. You already signed this one. Talking about the minutes now. July the 7th meetings.
I sent them earlier today, but yeah, I hope you guys got them, so. Sometimes I'm the day of, so I just have. If you need a copy, does anybody want to read them real quick?
I'll make a motion.
Look at them.
Randy makes a motion to accept the meeting minutes for July the 7th, 2021, and I'll second that. We need to set a meeting for Small Business Grant Awards, August 11th, which is next Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
You'll be here for a hearing at 1.
We'll be here at 1, so you good with that, Randy?
Yeah,
All
I'm fine.
right, we're good with that. We got one FMLA.
We do.
While we're looking at that, I wanna ask a few questions here, so. I already brought it up about Andrew, getting some estimates for
The rip.
the big screen, television and see, I was looking for what it was for. So hopefully, he has that in his budget and we don't have to dig money out, but if we do, I'd like to see that money kinda come out of the commissioner's stuff since it's our room maybe. Do I go ahead and sign this, approve?
Yes, if you don't, please.
I guess I'll
Make a-
entertain a motion to approve this FMLA. Randy makes a motion, I second that, and so we're gonna mark this approved. All right, one other thing I got here, and I know I've talked to Zach about this before. B&O Railroad, I know you said you kind of cleared that path. I had one of the participants that came in and talked to me about, or actually had contacted me about, he came in here and talked to Larry, and I think Larry was kind of confused on what he needs to do, so who?
He wasn't confused, it's just that if you've got a survey and it's taken in the property that you're claiming, it needs to be recorded. If you don't record the survey, you're not gonna get assessed for the land that you own.
Okay, and the person that contacted me, when he bought this property, he had it surveyed. The survey is to the center of the railroad track, because that's where his markers are.
Did he have it recorded?
So what